Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, we have a full house, so I'm going to try to shout over the din. My name is Anselmo D'Elia. I'm the chairman of the Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission. It is 7:03. I call this public hearing to order. We have a quorum, and we are now in session. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Anselmo D'Elia.
Here.
Alan Kravitz. Michael Knudsen.
Here.
Alan's just walking in.
Alan Kravitz.
Here.
Edward Alvarino.
Here.
Maurice Kirkcar.
Present.
Pamela Fritz. Here. Christine Goupil. Here. Timothy Guerra. Mark Rapuano.
Here.
Gary Bousquet.
Here.
Mary Ellen Dahlgren. Here. Peggy Sullivan.
I don't think I got to see any alternates, right?
No, Tim is absent.
Tim. Okay, who's up next?
Gary.
Gary, you'll be seated for Tim. And will the secretary please read the public notice? Or the notice of public hearing, otherwise known as.
Legal notice of public hearing, May 4th, 2015, 7 p.m., Green Room, or Rose Room. The Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on Monday, May 4th, 2015, at 7 p.m. in the Green Room of the Andrews Memorial Town Hall, 54 East Main Street, Clinton, Connecticut, to consider the following. SE 15-038, 224 East Main Street, Giovanni Lawn Care LLC / Ciro Landscaping LLC, change of use to Contractor's Business and Storage Yard, map 78, block 70, lot 159A, zone B4, continued from 3/30/2015. SE/CAM 15-043, Bluff Avenue, Butternut Road, 9 Robin Lane, Bluff Properties LLC, Contractor's Business and Storage Yard, map 85, block 69, lot 111/100, zone R10. 3, AR 15-050, petition to amend the zoning regulations. David A. Mack Properties, LLC, section 10.34.3A, currently 10.28.3A, section 24.2.40A. Full text of the amendments available in the Land Use Office and Clinton Town Clerk's Office. AR 15-052, petition to amend the zoning maps. Daryl and Richard Connolly, change a portion of 10 and 14 West Main Street from R10 to B3, a portion of 10 West Main Street from B2 to B3, a portion of 17 Commerce Street from R10 to B2. The map of the proposed changes is available in the Land Use Office and the Clinton Town Clerk's Office. 5, SE 15-057, 112 Pratt Road, Omar Francis. Change of use from two-family home to a single-family home with accessory apartment, map 34, block 15, lot 9482, zone R-10. 6, AR 15-058, petition to amend the zoning maps, Shoreline Gardens LLC, change a portion of 31 Old Post Road from R20 to I2, a portion from R30 to I2, a portion from R20 to R30, and a portion from I2 to R30. 7, SE/CAM 15-067, 12 Nod Place, New England Road, Inc., Contractor's Business and Storage Yard, depositing and stockpiling of earth materials, map 21, block 9, lot 3, zone I2. 8, SE 15-69, John Street, David A. Mack Properties LLC, change of use to commercial indoor recreational facility, type A, map 44, block 26, lot 19, former Unilever facility, zone I1. 9, AR 15-20, proposed amendment to the zoning regulations, section 10.3, multiple dwelling units in commercial structures. Full text and amendments available in the Land Use Office and the Clinton Town Clerk's Office. 10, AR 15-21, proposed amendment to the zoning regulations, section 10.5, village residential development, VRD. Full text and amendments available in the Land Use Office and Clinton Town Clerk's Office. 11, AR 15-22, proposed amendment to the zoning regulations, section 3, definitions, common green space and tract. Full text and amendments available in the Land Use Office and the Clinton Town Clerk's Office. 12, AR 15-23, proposed amendment to the zoning regulations, section 24, scheduled uses by district. Full text and amendments available in the Land Use Office and Town Clerk's Office. At said hearing, all persons will have the right to be heard and written communications received. The application and accompanying maps are available for public inspection in Land Use Office of the Andrews Memorial Town Hall, Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission, in Selma Delia Chairman. Email Harbor News to appear 2 times, Thursday, April 23rd and April 30th, 2015.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Just a preliminary announcement for anyone who might be here for item 2, SU Cam 15043, Bluff Avenue, Butternut Road, 9 Robin Lane, Bluff Properties LLC, and item 5, SC 15-057, 112 Pratt Road, Omar Francis, change of use from 2-family home to a single-family home with accessory apartment. I have been advised that because signs were not posted as legally required, they will not open as a public hearing tonight and will be tabled. So anyone that's here, prepared to speak to those two.
We can't hear back here.
Anyone who is here on items number 2 and number 5 and is prepared to speak either in favor or against, they're not going forward, so you may leave now and open up some room for others. I suspect you're not here for those. Okay, let's proceed. The way this works, another preliminary announcement. The presentation is made by the applicant and/or an agent for the applicant on each item that is here for public hearing. Numbers 1, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. After that presentation is made, I will ask for those who want to speak for the applicant for the presentation that was made on behalf, and you will come up, give us your name, identify yourself, and speak to that issue. Once everyone who wants to have an opportunity to speak in favor does so, I will ask for those who want to speak against the applicant or the application. Once we go through that process, we will have those who just want to make general comments. Once that third part is completed, the commission will have the floor, the commission will ask questions, and then we will see whether a public hearing needs to be continued and remain open, or whether we will close it and be prepared to render a decision next week, I think is when we're scheduled, right? Right. So we could render decisions as early as next week on some or all of these applications that are open to public hearing tonight. So without any further ado, the first item on
Mr. Chairman,
the...
before you go forward, could I just suggest that we combine items 3 and 8 since they're both from the same applicant? I don't care whether we do them both as 3 or both as 8, but it might be more.
Well, I will entertain a motion to that effect.
So should we prefer them as number 3 or number 8?
Does the applicant want to move them together? The applicant's here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no objection to that.
Okay.
So shall we move them both to, I move that we move them both to item number 3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Anyone abstaining? Okay, they are moved up, or number 8 is moved up to number 3A. Okay, first item. SE 15038, 224 East Main Street, Giovanni Lawn Care LLC, Ciro Landscaping LLC. Change of use to contractor's business and storage yard. Is there an applicant?
Good evening, my name is Chuck Mandel. I'm the agent for the applicant, Giovanni Lawn Care and Ciro Landscaping. On April 6th, they contacted my firm, Stevens & Associates, to address some comments from a March 3rd letter that the town had received. The original letter was 41 comments. On April 29th, we received a letter from town staff with 1 comment, and it was regarding the appearance of the fence and some details, and I have a picture. It's a typical stockade fence.
Oh, okay. It's already in the file.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
You emailed it to me.
All right. So I believe all the comments have been addressed. We are 1,100 feet plus or minus the nearest tidal marsh and 2,800 feet from the Long Island Sound. But I do understand that we've not received the DEP letter for a CAM application. And if the commission is unable to act on this application due to lack of information from the DEP, I have requested a 28-day extension to continue the public hearing.
Well, that is indeed the case, so if you're asking us for an extension, we will take that up.
Okay. I've already submitted the paperwork to
The next public hearing date will be June 1st, so I need a motion to extend.
Turn on the microphone, please. Nobody can hear anything back here.
The microphones don't work like that. They're only for recording purposes. Sorry.
I mean, we can't hear a word.
There's chairs up there. There's 35 people in the hallway.
We can't hear anything.
I'll do the best I can. I'm not sure, are you here on this application?
I'm here with everyone else and no one can hear.
Public hearing, we should be able to hear
You
the
should
whole
be able to
hearing.
hear it, okay?
I will do the best I can.
I just negotiated a deal.
You did?
They're gonna vacate the green room, they're gonna come into here in about 5-10 minutes, and we can never even go into the green room.
Well, it doesn't make it any easier as far as, projecting my booming voice.
It doesn't, but at least we have a microphone in there, and we can,
Okay.
all right? So if you wanna,
Stay 5 minutes.
Do this one another.
I move that we suspend until we adjourn the green room.
Let's continue.
I continue, we continue.
I don't believe there are many people.
Before we do that,
It doesn't help matters as far as hearing goes.
John asked if you could bring your chairs with you. Oh, not kidding.
Can we dispose of this matter first?
okay, I move that we extend this for 28 days as requested.
I second.
Any
Public hearing
discussion?
to June, continue the public hearing to June 1st at 7 o'clock.
Okay, till June 1st, 7 o'clock in Waseam, in the green room or whatever room we can get.
There's a second from Mike. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstaining? No one's abstaining? Okay, it is continued
Thank you.
to June 1st.
I need a motion to recess.
I make the motion to recess for change of room.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Time.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, we're recessed. All right, we go back into session. Go back into session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're back in session at 7:20, that's enough, 7:24. Close enough. All right, item number 2 cannot be open, so we'll move on to item number 3, AR 15050, petition to amend the zoning regulations, David A. Mack Properties LLC, section 10.34.3A, currently 10.28.3A, section 24.2.40A. Is there an applicant or an agent?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Attorney Marjorie Shansky here for the applicant. With me this evening is Mr. Mack. And
Attorney Shansky, just want to make sure we don't have any correspondence, and it looks like we do.
Mr. Chairman, I just have to disclose I'm a member of the Highs John Street Neighborhood Association, but I feel I can objectively review this application.
Very well. No one's asked you to recuse yourself, obviously.
Just want to disclose.
Thank you.
can you give her the mic? I was going to say, can you give her the mic so she can...
We are supposedly getting a portable one. Come, right down. Yeah.
Correspondence list received through May 4, 2015, AR 15-50, petition to amend the zoning regulations, David A. Mack Properties LLC. Letter April 10, 2015, letter from James Giuliani, Vice Chairman, SCRCOG Planning Commission. March 30, 2015, letter from Holler and Sage. April 30, 2015, letter from Carol Zamansky, DEP OLISK.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me now? Yes. Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I'm Attorney Marjorie Shansky, and I represent David A. Mack Properties LLC. Mr. Mack is with me. And we are here to present this amendment, proposed amendment to the Clinton zoning regulations. There have been a series of amendments to the zoning regulations pertaining to commercial indoor recreation facilities in the last year. And in that process, it undid what would have been patently available prior to one of the amendments, and that is to have the adaptive reuse of structures, existing structures that are bigger than 70,000 square feet. And we are here to add the word new into the regulations at section 10.34.3, parent A, parent 2, so that the 70,000 square foot restriction applies to new construction and doesn't preclude adaptive reuse of existing structures that are more than 70,000 square feet. And similarly, the amendment to 24.2.40 also puts that new language into the 70,000 square foot restriction and permits the development of a commercial indoor recreation facility type A in the I-1 zoning district by special exception. So the application goes through consistency with the plan of conservation and development. There are several factors that endorse this kind of recognition of the value of using existing facilities. The embedded energy makes it a sustainability practice. The value of community character that is sometimes also embedded in the streetscape by virtue of the existing facility, and the likelihood that conversion, adaptive reuse, will lead to code upgrades, which generally includes the stock of the building in the town. So the correspondence that's been referenced this evening came from counsel to the commission, who's identified both of these. I would characterize them as minor changes, as legislative. That means they fall squarely within your discretion. The letter from the Regional Planning Commission found no negative impact on intermunicipal. So good. Pardon me. The amendments do not appear, thank you, to cause any negative intermunicipal impacts to the towns in the South Central region, nor do they appear to be any impacts to the habitat or ecosystem of the Long Island Sound. And similarly, the Office of the Long Island Sound Program has also written an amendment neutral finding. So with those factors, we would respectfully request that the Commission adopt this change to the Clinton zoning regulations.
Thank you. I just noticed from the correspondence that was read, the April 30, 2015 letter from the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, the signer of that letter has requested that it be read into the record. So that's really.
This is from the Energy and Environmental Protection, April 30th, 2015. Dear Commissioners, thank you for referring this zoning text amendment to us for review. We find the amendments to be consistent with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act. Conclusion, we hope these comments are helpful to the Commission. Pursuant to CGS Section 22A-110, we request these comments be read to the public record, the public hearing for this application. If we can be of further assistance to you in this or any other coastal management or Long Island Sound related matter, please feel free to contact me at 860-424-3138. Sincerely, Carol Zemansky, Environmental Analyst, Office of Long Island Sound Programs, Bureau of Water Protection and Land Reuse.
Thank you.
If the Commission has any questions?
Well, we are going to listen to the public for any comments in favor. Then we're going to take up comments that might be against the application. In general comments, you get a rebuttal, and then you get us. How's that?
Sounds perfect.
Okay. So having said that, is there anyone in this room tonight prepared to speak in favor of this application for change of amendment? Anyone? Mr. Fritz?
William W. Fritz Jr., First Selectman, 30 Sniper Lane, Clinton, Connecticut. I appreciate the zoning board's consideration of the application. I thank the work of our people in the zoning department, our regulations committee, on their diligence to amend the regs as necessary to allow for this fantastic opportunity for the town of Clinton to go forward. And I hope you all see the need, and I hope the public understands what the benefit to the town that this facility is going to have. And I thank the developer for coming forward to propose this. It's a big risk, but the risk reward for the town of Clinton is fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else that wants to speak in favor?
My name is Jane Scully Welch, 101 Grove Street, and I would just reiterate what Willie said. It's an enormous, wonderful opportunity for the town of Clinton, and we can't stop it. We have to let it go. It's going to be great. It's going to open up all new aspects, venues, and it's just, and I thank you too for coming to Clinton.
Anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of this application? I see a hand up in the back.
Mike Milano.
Mike Milano. I just want to speak in favor of this application. I think this is a huge chance for the town of Clinton. Very, very big opportunity. I think it's the beginning of, it's not even the beginning, the town's already taking great steps forward, and I think this is just going to be a real good opportunity for the town. And I would say it would also spawn off a lot of other great opportunities as this moves forward. There'll be a lot of other things happening in the town, and I think it's a great opportunity. I hope we don't miss out on it.
Thank you. Anyone else that wants to speak in favor of this application to amend the regulations? Mr. Allen, are you coming forward? No. Okay. I wasn't sure.
My name is Harriet Jewell, 25 Bluffingwell Road. I think this is one of the best things that's happened in recent history to the town. I think it's imperative that this get passed so that we can move forward in the forward motion that we are in now. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor? Anyone else that wants to speak in favor? One more time. Anyone else that wants to speak in favor of this application to amend the zoning regulations? Okay. Anyone that wants to speak against this application to amend the zoning regulations, please rise, identify yourself, and let us hear from you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Anyone else that wants to speak against, or anyone that wants to speak against this application? Doesn't look that there is anyone, so I will ask for general comments. Mr. Semino, are you going to speak?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things I'd like to say. Sure, Vincent Semino, 26 Old Mill Road. And I'd just like, first of all, to say.
Microphone?
Here, sorry, yes, thank you. I'd just like to clarify a couple of things. First of all, it was through no error of the Planning and Zoning Commission that this application needs to come forward. It was actually the applicant themselves. It was their amendment that made it necessary to come back and now undo their amendment. But unfortunately, as a result of the original amendment, it opened the door for the recycling center and for other buildings to now exceed 40,000 square feet in an industrial zone. So it was not any fault of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to ask a question. It's a reuse of an existing building. Will there be a condition that the building cannot exceed the current height? Excuse me? No. Excuse me. Oh, it's a question I would like the commission to ask the developer.
You can ask the developer yourself.
Will the building exceed the current height?
No.
Thank you. And one last thing. I saw that the first selectman came forward to speak on behalf of this, but it was my earlier indication that if it's not a town-owned property, that he does not comment or participate.
Just so you know, I
Excuse
really
me?
don't want to get involved in political defense or intent. That's not appropriate for this hearing.
Mr. Julia, the only thing I'm trying to say is that for the propane facility, he did not participate because it was not a town-owned property. And I think that it should be a consistent policy.
Consistent by whom? It's consistent by whom?
It's like a policy. It should be a consistent policy by the first selectman's office. And if it's not a town-owned property,
All right. You're not calling into question our
no, I'm not.
allowing people to
No, I'm
speak
not.
freely, which you know to be the case. All right. And that includes the first selectman, when he so chooses. Okay. Commissioners, it's open to us. Questions, comments?
Any other general comments?
Okay.
Greg Went, I live on 32 John Street. My biggest concern is it's a family neighborhood, and it's going to turn into a construction entrance for these new buildings all of a sudden. I didn't realize we're making new buildings, but
There are no new buildings.
I think you misunderstand what they're adding is that this restriction on 70,000 square feet only applies to new buildings.
I understand. I'm a contractor, and I know what's going to actually happen. It's going to be a construction site for 9 months, a year and a half to make this happen. And it's my biggest concern is how are they getting into using John Street as the entrance, the one-way street?
For tonight's public hearing, I have to say, we are limited to what's before us. Before us is not new construction.
My concern is the traffic more than anything, and the kids that live on my street.
Okay, so you're speaking against the application?
Right.
I'm all for what's going to happen down there. I just don't want it coming down my street as the entrance to the new park. Well, you laugh, but the whole town's for this, but everybody on my streets are totally against this. And we're going to get stomped on by, we have 15 houses.
So the question I'm asking is a fair one. You're speaking against it.
I'm speaking against our street being the entrance to it, yes.
Okay.
If I can just jump in here for a second. This is the text change piece of this. There will be a separate application later this evening dealing with special exceptions. So if we can keep the comments segregated to the text change here and then a separate presentation later in just a few minutes. This is next on the agenda, as I understand.
I just want to make my point.
I understand.
Understood. Anyone else that wants to make general comments about this application to amend the zoning regulations?
My name is Jeff Cashman. I live at 66 River Road in Clinton. I'd like to make general comments. Today, to have investors come into our community
is assured joy and reward. To take on properties today, as big business has left our community, should be our fishing pole to reel people into this community. To do it properly, to do it respectfully. We have a lot of properties today that need major upkeeping and major investments, such as these folks today. We want to be warm and welcome to those people. We want to be warm to the investors who put financial interest in our community. We want to make sure that our community is whole. We want to make sure that each person here as a resident is respected, from the contractor here to people like Mike Milano, who are major investors in our community. I'd like to just speak in general terms tonight, but I find it rewarding to see and to hear that some of the properties in the town of Clinton are luring investors. That's what we need for tax base. That's what we need for investors. We need to be warm and fuzzy. We need to make sure that our planning and zoning is right on target to make sure that those people are welcomed here. How you personally feel, you have a right to speak in this hearing tonight. You have a right to be concerned about what happens. But please do remember that some of these buildings have been in existence for a long time. They have been here, they have proven the test for traffic flow, and until something brand new that scares us as taxpayers and as citizens and people raising our homes, we have every right to be concerned, and that's why you're all here tonight. Thank you for coming.
Is there anyone else that wants to make general comments about this application? Anyone else? General comments? Not seeing anybody stepping forward, I'll open it up to the commissioners. Questions, concerns, comments?
As noted, as always, I-1 area zoning.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just want to remind commissioners and all on this text that it goes for any area of I-1. So it's not just that one area. So it makes other people, other investors capable of coming to Clinton and adding these buildings.
That's an existing.
Right, existing.
And it's only for recreational use.
And the question is, do we even have any existing building with it?
Here, Gary.
Do we even have any buildings of that square footage in town in the I-1?
Other than this.
Other than this one?
I think the answer is no.
Okay.
Stanley Boston.
They said Stanley Boston Street.
Okay, no more comments from the
I
commission?
have just one question. I guess it's a question for Eric. The proposed table refers to single structure, and I know that they have multiple structures in which they propose to use on the site. Are they covered?
Remember, only one of these buildings is going to be, I'm sorry. Yes, Eric Knapp, zoning enforcement officer. Because only one of these buildings is in excess of this size, the rest are not going to be affected by this one way or the other. Where there are more than one building in excess of 70,000 square feet, we would certainly need to amend the table accordingly. You really just have one very large building and a number of much smaller outbuildings that would be able to be developed under the present regulations, particularly like their variance. So I don't think that that's a particular problem, but thank you for raising that up.
Anyone else on the commission with any questions or comments? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I am going to allow the attorney to rebut if she so chooses, if there's any rebuttal necessary.
Mr. Chairman, I would simply correct the record. It was not the same applicant earlier that changed the regulations. So we are a different applicant, and we'll concede that it's the same lawyer. But I constantly have to remind people that I'm just a working girl.
I'm not sure I put it that way.
How's business?
We're going to get the microphone back. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Okay, you're still up, I think, because the next item is 3A that we...
We didn't go to close the hearing.
Oh, that's right, sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
I move that we close the public hearing on AR 15-050.
Any discussion? There's a motion to close the public hearing in a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Anyone abstaining? Public hearing is closed. Thank you. Okay, now.
Correspondence. Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate for me to disclose again? Or is it?
I think you've stated it once is sufficient. Is there any correspondence on item 3A, formerly 8, SC 15069?
Christine, I think just because this is a separate application, why don't you just make the same disclosure again for the separate application, just so it's clear in the record again.
I'd just like to disclose that I'm a member of the High John Street Neighborhood Association, but I feel I can objectively participate in this application.
Mayor cannot.
I can object.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
Hard to tell.
Everybody satisfied?
Yes.
On the second.
Correspondence.
Correspondence list 1, received through May 4th, 2015. SE 15-069, John Street, David A. Mack Properties LLC, change of use to commercial indoor recreation facility type A, map 44, block 26, lot 19, former Unilever facility, zone I-1. Letter dated April 29, 2015, staff review letter. May 4, 2015, letter from Marjorie Shansky requesting the commission to approve a scale of 1 inch equals 60 feet for the site plan. May 4, 2015, staff review letter.
Okay. No one's requesting us to read the full thing in the record, right? You looked good. All right. Attorney Shansky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Marjorie Shansky. I represent David A. Mack Properties, LLC. Mr. Mack is here in the audience. I'm here tonight with Ron Nault, the site engineer from DiCarlo and Dahl. I'm here with Dave Sullivan, who prepared the traffic report from my own room. And I'm here with Eric Glidden from Glidden Appraisal Services, LLC. He's a certified general real estate appraiser. I did indeed submit a letter earlier, but I did bring the original, requesting that the commission accept the site plan prepared at 1 inch equals 60 feet. Part of the rationale is that it was able to put the entire very large site onto one sheet, making it actually easier to read to the extent that it's an existing facility with no exterior changes and probably familiar to the commission, so we would appreciate your allowance of that under your regulations for that request. The letter that we received from staff indicates that all of the special permit, special exception criteria have been met in the submission, and by my letter dated March 30th, I enumerated all of the content of the application which the commission has had in its possession and I suspect has reviewed at this point. In addition to the statement of use, which is required under section 4 of your regulations, and which has its own breakdown in the application submission, I also included a statement in support in which I went through the criteria of sections 9 and section 10.30 of the zone regulations, which cover the special exception criteria. And that analysis of all the ways in which this application meets your regulations is what we're relying on this evening, together with the traffic report. And I'm now going to have handed out to the commission Mr. Glidden's appraisal report. Mr. Glidden is also here and can answer any questions you might have as we get into the application. This is an adaptive reuse and conversion of the Unilever Ponds facility into an indoor commercial recreation facility type A. It will be occupying the entire facility over time. And at this point, I think, because we have a full array of experts, I would ask Mr. Nault to go over the site and the interior with the commission.
Where would it be best that I put the easel in the corner, perhaps?
I think back here is probably best so that the audience can see it.
And the boards that Mr. Nault is going to be sharing with the commission are those that have been in your application package. So anybody who's reviewed the file has seen these.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is again Ron Nault. I'm a professional engineer with the firm of Luke's Consulting Engineers, DeCarlo and Dahl Architects of Meriden. First, I will quickly walk you around the site exterior of the building, showing traffic flow, lighting, safety features, and then go inside the building for the proposed configuration of uses. Finally, Dave Sullivan will talk about traffic flow getting to and from the site. Just for location purposes, the large site, 25.7 acres in total, sits as an address on John Street, also fronting on North High Street and Central Avenue in the center of town. Traffic will enter the site from two possible points, the Central Avenue John Street entrance, as well as the North High Street driveway, the driveway off of North High Street. Traffic will be assisted by enhanced lighting, pavement markings, and wayfinding signs. Fire lanes will be striped and signed for no parking. Visitors will be directed to park in designated areas or to a drop-off area loop. Most of the parking is west of the building in a large existing parking field here, as well as parking space to the north of the building. Pavement markings directing traffic flow, fire lanes, and again, the drop-off loop will be configured. Our plan features reuse of existing parking areas almost completely out of public view. Once out of the car, there will be crosswalks and enhanced lighting, 1-foot candle in the parking areas and 10-foot candles around the main entrance, exceeding standards to enhance safety of our young visitors, to help get people safely into the building. When leaving the building, visitors will make their way back to their car and follow signs for Route 1 downtown or to I-95, with the route along the driveway to North High Street featured as a preferred path. The application includes other aspects that I will go over quickly. Landscaping, the existing vegetated buffer along the perimeter of the property will remain unencumbered, unchanged, I guess. Litter control and waste management, there will be numerous trash and recycling stations around the exterior of the site. And there will be an outdoor picnic area utilizing the existing oasis. There will be no change relative to the site relative to impervious areas and drainage. Now in the building, the proposed interior function, potential uses and configurations are as follows. Double hockey rink area,
Mr. Nolte, could you just do that kind of to the side? Either side, but no,
double hockey rink configuration inside the main warehouse portion of the site. Soccer, artificial turf soccer fields as well. Also lacrosse, baseball, golf area, dance studio, locker rooms for warm-up, as well as supporting areas for training, pro shop, as I mentioned, locker rooms, medical treatment, food service, and fitness center. Logistically, the building will be organized as follows. There's a main entrance here with control for security. There'll be public restrooms throughout the site. Interior trash and recycling stations. Inside picnic area in the former lunchroom. And designated common walkways with signage to direct and move people safely and efficiently from the main entrance along the different use applications here and then up into the north portion of the building. Dave Sullivan now is going to review the traffic analysis.
Good evening again. My name is David Sullivan. I manage the traffic engineering group at Mylone McBroom. We were asked to evaluate the traffic impact of this change of use to a multi-purpose recreation facility. Our traffic study was very typical for the industry. We looked at existing conditions, then we looked at the site in terms of traffic, what types of traffic it's going to generate. Then we established two future conditions, one with the new traffic, one without the new traffic. We evaluate the two, identify the impacts, and make recommendations. In terms of the existing conditions, our study area included the intersection of Route 1, Route 1 with Hull. Then we looked at High Street, at John Street. We looked at North High Street at the site access drive. And we looked at Central Avenue at Hull Street, so we 81 there. We did our analysis in an afternoon peak hour, and we also looked at it on a Saturday midday. This type of facility would lead us to those hours. For trip generation for this proposal, we looked at it a couple of ways. The first way was to look at the Institute of Transportation Engineers. They have a number of categories. They do have a category for multi-purpose recreation facilities. We looked at that and generated the traffic based on the square footage here. The second way was, which is generally a preferred method, we looked at our files for our own data where we looked at these type of facilities before. And we found one that was smaller but still quite large in Trumbull, the sports zone. And it's over 100,000 square feet. It has a number of soccer facilities, a lot of the ancillary uses. So it's smaller but similar. We looked at that data, prorated that to, I think we nearly tripled the traffic volumes there, compared that to what ITE tells us. And what we found that using the actual data gave us a more conservative number of about 50 to 75% higher if we use the real Trumbull Sports Zone data. So we used that. The next thing we did is evaluate where the traffic is coming and going. In general, we think 25% will come from the south off of Route 1, east and west. The remainder, 75%, will be oriented north, primarily on and off of I-95. Next thing we did was develop the existing traffic counts. We grew them to a background scenario. We added other developments that are on the books but not built yet. We looked at normal growth rates in the traffic in the area, and we came up with a no-build scenario. We added the traffic volumes on that I just talked about that we estimated for a build or combined scenario. We did our analysis and looked at the results. The results in terms of level of service,
Many of you are probably aware of the concept, just like letter grades, level surface A is very good, level surface F is failing, where you have lots of delays and have to wait. In general, we had generally good levels of service, mostly the C range, and the additional traffic from this development did not impact the level of service at any of the approaches of any of our analysis intersections. We did have, we had a few minor back and forth. We worked with Ron on some of the signage and things like that, but from an off-site standpoint, the one recommendation we came, that's indicated in the report is the intersection of Central Avenue now is a single stop sign for Central Avenue, and the 81 traffic just kind of flows along that zigzag S-turn. We thought because this type of development, unlike people that are coming and going from work every day, might not be as aware of the conditions. We're a little concerned about sightlines coming out of there, so our recommendation was to make that an all-way stop control. There'd be some restriping, and what that means is that coming down Route 81, you'd come to a stop sign before you take the left to go to Route 1. If you're coming out of Central Avenue, you would stop before you went either way on 81, and if you were coming from Route 1 north, you would stop before you took the right turn. So it's much safer, much more convenient. And then we also suggested some additional signage. There is some signage out there now, but we thought a little bit, another set of signs for speed limit and the cautionary zigzag sign where the turn ahead southbound on High Street. That's it, and that's 5 pointer.
Mr. Glidden. And while Mr. Glidden comes here, I'd like to expand a little bit on what Mr. Knoll said. They're not just hockey rinks. They're ice rinks, and they'll be used for ice skating, open ice skating for the community, figure skating, and of course curling. just seeing if you're listening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, my name is Eric Glidden. I am a full-time certified real estate appraiser. Have been doing so since 1980, and I was asked by Attorney Shansky to render my opinion as to any effect on property values that this reuse of the former Unilever plant may have. I feel that I'm qualified to render this type of an opinion, as I have been actively involved for 34 years as an appraiser, very familiar with property values in Clinton and throughout the state. And in fact, from 97 to 2012, I maintained a home office at 9 Grove Street in Clinton, a quarter of a mile away from the Unilever plant. In the course of my home office use on Grove Street, there were times when the facility employed up to 300 people, and there was, in my opinion, no discernible market evidence that the existence of the plant and its use as the Unilever facility, or this proposed reuse of the facility, will have any adverse effect upon property values in the neighborhood. In fact, I feel that the conversion or the reuse of the facility from a vacant industrial building to a much needed and desired facility that would benefit the residents of Clinton will more than likely impact positively the values in the neighborhood. And for those reasons, it's my opinion that there will be no adverse effect upon neighborhood values as a result of this reuse of the property.
God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to emphasize that as Mr. Sullivan indicated, where people are coming from and what the wayfinding signs will do, and it will be our goal to not in any way encourage the use of John Street and to in fact discourage it and use signage in that effort. I would then circle back to the statement of use and section 4.21 of the regulations, the hours of operation, the parking grid. All of this is in the materials that have been provided, and so I don't feel the need to recite them aloud unless you have any questions about them.
before we get to questions from the commission, we're going to have to turn it over to the public.
Thank you.
Have you concluded your remarks?
Thank you.
All right. Anyone that wishes to speak in favor of this application, please rise and come forward. Identify yourself and let us hear from you.
John Allen, 15 Hooper's Way, Clinton. Try to make this brief because it's redundant, but as everybody I think understands, this is probably the greatest opportunity we've had in a long time to revitalize this entire town. Not that we're not worthy of it, but we're thankful for it. And I think every time you hear what David and his team are doing, it gets better. I mean, it's not one of those things where they came through and they started talking about what they wanted to do, and now they're really getting up to the actual contract time and starting to make something happen, and things start receding into the background. There's more things being added on, even cold. Heaven help us. I just want to say, this is probably the biggest thing that's going to turn the town around, and I hope we all do the right thing. That's all I'm hoping. It's 4, by the way.
I gather. That's what I was calling for. That's the order of business. Anyone else that wants to speak in favor of this application, please come forward. We're going to see you again, Mr. Fritz.
What are saying to this time?
Some people don't want me to, but that's okay. Willie Fritz, First Selectman, 30 Sunnybrook Lane. I want to reiterate what John said. We've been working. David was nice enough to come forward almost a year ago, if not longer. Started right away working with us, working with Eric, Julie, the Thursday morning group. Came up with some wild, crazy idea, and we said, this is great. This is something I don't think any of us envisioned or expected, and as John said, this is something that can definitely bring people to town and support a local economy. It's not just the tax revenue, it's supporting the local economy, getting people in town to spend their money, our local businesses, supporting our small businesses. This is something that can get foot traffic into the center of Clinton, and I hope you guys approve it. Thank you.
Anyone else wants to speak in favor of this application? Come forward. Yes, ma'am, back there.
Charlie Denhart. Okay. 24 John Street, right in the middle of the factory. And the last house is a historic house, and it's 200 years old. I've lived there 30 years. But anyway, okay. I have lived there for 30 years, loved it, and I have no problem with what's going on. My grandchildren skate, hockey captains and everything down where they have the facility. It's lovely. You are going to have a big problem on John Street. We have lived there. We have people coming down, turning around, going back up. Saturday, I tried to get out on Central Avenue at that stop sign, okay? And I sat for 10 minutes. That is what you are going to encounter if people are going to be coming out of the facility. John Street is not the way you say they're not going to come in. They come in all the time, turn around in the factory, and go back down a one-way street. And it's only wide enough for one-way traffic. So if we do anything, I think it has to be changed down there. Stop signs are not going to help it. And if anything, it has to be coming from North High Street. Because that is, we're going to come back down and go in. John Street, I had a wedding there. We have another one coming. They come down, they turn around, go back down. They don't know where they're going. Come to the end of the street, don't know how to get out. We saw tractor trailers come down all that time that Ponce was there. Never minded them. They were great. They came in at 7, they were out at 4. We are not going to have that kind of traffic there with something like that. So I think we have to, or whoever's doing it, concentrate more on where the traffic is going to go and come in. Because it's not going to be Central Avenue and it's not going to be John Street, because there's going to be a big problem. I think it's great. Great facility. But your traffic is a problem. That's it.
Try to be very mindful. We'll
Okay.
try to be very mindful of that. Thank you for your
I mean,
comments.
really, after 30 years living there, you know.
Anyone else that wishes to speak in favor? Mr. Willett, are you coming to speak in favor?
Yes, I am. Would you say yes, sir?
Larry Willett, 11 Fernwood Lane, Clinton. I'm also the chairman of the Historic District Commission, and I would like to speak in favor of it. I was on the revitalization plan that was put together by the town years ago, and I would just like to say any plan that comes in and wants to revitalize and reuse our older historic buildings in town, we would applaud the effort and we would support the effort, because we have a lot of historic houses and structures in town. And we realize that the only way to keep those viable through the years and to protect them and preserve them is to make them commercially viable, which is what you're doing here. So we applaud the effort and we support the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Please come up.
Jeff Cashman, 66 River Road. I reserve the right to be for or against this application until they flip the paper. I wanted to see what the presentation was. But I gotta tell you something. This has been my thought for the longest time, even though I ran to be on the Board of Selectmen. I thought we needed something that was sports orientated in our town. You can remember going back thousands of years, chariots and Roman racing. The sports arena has been one of the money makers in town. And I wanted to share tonight that UConn, if anybody has had a chance to go to UConn and to go to a UConn game, the sports-orientated privilege, look at the surrounding property that is around UConn. There are some of the most viable businesses in Storr, Connecticut because of sports. One of our largest sports fans, Willie just spoke here in town. You can't get in a conversation with Willie without talking something about sports. Today I thought that while all other aspects of what could be rewarded in our community to draw people to the local restaurants, you have to feed them, you have to clothe them, you have to service these people while they're here spending their money. This sounds like a winner, and it's the one winner of someone sitting here going, I'd like to make an investment in the community. I think this is wonderful. I think it's absolutely wonderful that someone would take on such a large investment in our community. And tonight, I want to encourage each one of you, if you have a chance to want to get up here, maybe sometimes fear says that you don't want to get up here, but really, this is a golden egg that's about ready to be hatched in our town. Thank you for investing in our community. Thank you so much.
I don't know how you follow that up, but anyone else want to speak in favor? We're going back 2,000 years.
Goodness, first time you see me smile.
Anyone else want to speak in favor of this application?
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Jeff.
One last time. Anyone want to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wants to speak against this application? And follow that up.
Go back to follow.
Anyone want to speak against this application? You know, I don't want to, deter you from speaking your mind. You spoke earlier, it wasn't directly on
My
this.
property value of the job is $75,000, but you know what, I'm not going to do about it.
If you want to speak against it, this is your opportunity. And
For the building, it's just the traffic problem. It will be a nightmare, I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Anyone want to speak against it? I don't want to make it like, you can't speak. You're here, it's a public hearing. You're entitled to speak. Your opinion counts as much as the next person's. So I encourage anyone that wishes to speak but feels intimidated You're not going to be intimidated by this chairman or this commission, so if you wish to speak, this is your opportunity. Well, I just want to make sure there are no negative comments first. Is that it? Okay. Then general comments. I would entertain general comments at this time.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, the apprehensive fear that this gentleman had could very easily be very real. We know what traffic is like on Route 1. We know what it's like going to the highway. That's not to say that this is going to be a completely negative traffic situation. It's to say that it could be. Since this is being built in phases is the way that I understood it, and eventually we'll take over that whole 200.
Mr. Singh,
Yes.
I'm being asked for you to identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I already did. Vince Amino, 26 Old Mill Road, if anyone doesn't know me. But since it's going to be built in phases, would you consider approving it in phases? So that, for example, if the rinks are supposed to go in first, can we see what the traffic impact will be before any additional activity goes in? So that if in fact, I mean, this is totally different than a factory where people punch in at 9 and leave at 5. This is traffic all day long. And when we heard the presentation about the type of business that this would generate, that should be an indication of the type of traffic that it would generate. So I would ask that you condition it. Number one, we were told that it would not exceed the height of the existing building as a reuse. I would ask that you condition that, and I would also ask that you give approvals as it's being built, as opposed to as a whole, because we really don't know, and the neighborhood is concerned, rightly so. I think the town should just realize the potential traffic impact that this could have and approve it in phases. Thank you.
You have a general comment, sir?
Yes. From what I've been hearing, sports complex sounds like a lot of children, a lot of people riding bikes. And my concern would be, the safety. I don't live near John Street. I don't know the problems with John Street. But when you're talking a big youth, big athletic place like that, there's going to be people walking, there's going to be people riding bikes, and I haven't heard anything concerning those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other general comments? Anyone else have general comments to make about this application? If not, then I'll turn it over to the commission, and commissioners, you may ask questions and voice concerns or make comments.
I have a question. I had a question on the sanitary wastewater plan. Apparently, all the sanitary waste is collected on site and then trucked away. There's no on-site disposal system. Is that correct?
Can I answer now?
And then my other question is, you show on the plan a large storage tank, which is otherwise identified as a pressure tank. And what do you plan to store in there?
Thank you, Ron Mold. Currently, the factory had shut down its old treatment system, and so they are storing sanitary flows from the process, from the use of the building as it currently exists, and then pumping and taking it, I think, to Middletown. The proposal would include, at a future near-term date, application for a conventional on-site wastewater treatment system will be as a sports facility generating common domestic wastewater, not the processed water that normally we used to generate that required the treatment system. So we'll be back before the health department for a large on-site wastewater, on-site wastewater system for domestic wastewater.
what are you using the tank here for? It was identified on another plan as a storage tank. as a residence tank.
That's the current storage tank for wastewater now. It goes from the building out to that outbuilding where the tank exists, and then it's pumped when it needs.
These tanks are identified as the sanitary flows. The storage tank.
Oh, that was a water storage tank to assist in firefighting capabilities. Even when Unilever was here, I believe, taken out of service because Connecticut Water upped their pressure system. So just water storage.
So there's water in it now, and you anticipate that you'll maintain water in it?
We probably won't need that for our building use. Doesn't have a high fire demand. So that was back when Unilever was a factory and was operating as additional fire storage.
Do you plan to remove this tank?
Probably.
We're not sure yet. Maybe it's an art gallery.
In a pressure tank?
I think it's an atmospheric storage tank. It was used as part of the old fire flow.
Any other questions?
I have a question, one question regarding the site plan. There's a portion of the site which you don't, thank you for a closed mic. There's a portion of the site plan, the portion south of Central Avenue, which shows no use. It's the current parking lot next to the train station. And a portion of that property, the portion that's actually outside the property lines, is either leased to, or I don't know what the legal arrangements is, to the, I guess to Amtrak, for what I saw on the original plan as handicapped access to the new flyover at the train station. But you show it as a landlocked parcel. It's
Go ahead, is your question?
Well, the question is, are you prepared, or have you any discussions with Amtrak about access to that side of the park, to that side of the proposed flyover? I mean, it's critical.
Yes, as part of the proposed improvements to the Clinton station, the DOT is installing the up and over crossover, and this property had to grant CONDOT, or the state of Connecticut, an easement to enable that. The remaining area of that parking field in front of the three-story Art Deco building will be utilized for this site at a use to be parking in support of the building use to be determined. But no, we will not abandon that property, and it will be returned to valuable use.
Another question for the the transportation traffic consultant. Comparability of the Trumbull site and our site. The owner of the Trumbull site has made a public statement, I found it on the web this afternoon, that he anticipates, and I recall you said it's a third the size of this facility, he anticipates 1 million visitors on the Trumbull site. You know, that's a lot of cars. Have you looked at the possibility? Because the numbers you used for, well, I think, for 2013, the place had been closed. You used numbers from 2009, before the Trumbull facility closed. It subsequently closed, I would assume because it wasn't doing a very good business, and was on the market for a year before it was sold to its current owner. So the question really has to do with the comparability of the Trumbull as a way of determining really the generation numbers.
Excuse me, at the time we selected to count the Trumbull site, we were actually working on an indoor facility in Danbury and also one in Stratford. And we looked around, and I live quite near the Bubble in North Branford. And at that time in my life, I was a full-fledged soccer dad with my daughter. And we had spent some time at the Trumbull facility. And I selected that one because every time I was there, it was full, it was active, the turnover was aggressive. So the teams would come in, they'd kind of stage in the lobby, the other teams would go out, and they'd filter in there. They had a fairly organized, and to me it seemed a vibrant business at the time. Now, the economics behind it, I'm not sure of that.
The date of your mutual observation is what?
I don't have that.
Roughly.
5 years ago,
Okay.
thereabouts. Again, it was vibrant in my opinion at the time. In terms of the 1 million visitors, I'd have to take out my calculator and figure out what that really means in cars. But again, when you hear things, and sometimes in a marketing sense, 1 million visitors, you don't really know what that means. I don't really have a comment on how that translates to traffic. I'm just confident that it was vibrant when we counted it, and when we tripled the volume, we're significantly higher than what the Institute of Transportation would tell us we should be for this type of facility. So hopefully that satisfies your concerns.
Sir.
I've got a couple of things, so bear with me. So Alan, you would need 2,700, about 2,800 people a day, every day, including Christmas. A lot of those people probably come on buses. So we're not necessarily talking about 1 million cars. In looking at the traffic study, it looks like you're trying to be proactive and address the traffic concerns. For instance, having better signage. If you go there now, the signage is not great, and that might be part of the problem. It does say in the traffic report that your main concern is going to be no turns onto John Street. It does say that. As far as wastewater, it's my opinion that they're going to have to be reviewed by the health district, and I myself am not qualified to discern whether wastewater is adequate for the site. I'm going to rely on them. I'm guessing, just a comment, that there'll be no more chemicals supplied on the site, which for me is a huge thing that nobody has brought up so far. There are a lot of volatile chemicals. I'm guessing that the Clinton Fire Department has done a lot of training on the site because of the volatility of those chemicals. If this is not approved, I'm guessing this is a question for Eric and Julie, anybody could pretty much come in and put in the factory in, because that would be a permitted use. So as for the traffic, I did maintain the site for 3 years. It's not just traffic from 8 to 5. That's not how the place operates. It's 3 shifts a day. So there is an 11 o'clock shift change, which is late at night. So my question, I guess I have a question to the traffic study, is was there a comparison about the impact of what we had versus what we could have? I mean, to me it sounds obvious that it would be less, but at 1 million visitors, that may be a concern as well. I guess most of what I'm saying is a comment and not a question, but
My question is more basic than that. How many visitors are you expecting on this site on a weekday and on a weekend? And, I don't need to know exactly how many number of cars you expect to have, just how many visitors are you expecting to have?
During the course of the day?
During the week and on the weekends.
You probably have approximately...
You need to use the microphone.
David Mack Properties. We would probably have in the order of, there could be as many as 150 people on the site at any given one point in time. And they would roll out in shifts, you know, so as these sports teams come in and go out, they would basically roll in and out after their various sessions. So, I mean, if you have 2,000 visitors in a day, you could potentially have that. They go in and out of shifts of 150 at a clip probably.
So it's not family park?
No.
And a lot of that could be all on a single bus.
Yes.
Since the sports teams.
Exactly right.
Any other questions from the commission?
I have some questions.
I wasn't sure on the traffic site plan where you have indicated for bus parking. And I'm sorry if I'm just not seeing it correctly indicated.
The old loading dock area.
Oh, I see. And is that sufficient then, you know, with the expectation of what you're talking about with the numbers?
It is. We believe that much of the use will be, some of the use will be team-driven, which would be conducive to bus travel from afar. A lot of it will be soccer dads in single family, probably with a couple of kids, like if you might imagine how these get used. So that's why we have full parking for as if everyone arrived by car, but ability to facilitate bus parking as well.
My other question, a couple of them. My other question is the concerns on John Street. So when you actually Google the site, and you're going to get directions down John Street because that's the actual name. And I don't know how feasible it is to actually change the address to Central Avenue. By doing that, that would direct traffic down High Street to Central Avenue to the facility as opposed to sending people down John. Because that's how people work. They'll go to your website, they'll click on the address and they'll bring them to a map and direct them down John. So that might be an option.
We're happy to do that. We work with the town to make that happen.
Another thing for John Street in terms of making sure traffic doesn't go back up John Street is a narrowing at the point of John Street at the last residential property.
Sounds
Be a
good.
mechanism. And then my other question was, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the town was going to be getting a traffic study as well to look at it? And we don't have that yet. We don't have that yet. So are we going to be doing that in terms of knowing the actual numbers? If we're not exactly sure what the numbers are in terms of the usage, it's going to be difficult to come to a conclusion as to what the best recommendations are for a plan for the traffic study for the traffic.
Christine, we've done it, you've asked. What we've done is we've asked another traffic engineer to review and analyze the report that's been submitted by the applicant to determine whether there's any flaws in it, any fallacies, any weaknesses that might be in it. So to the extent that there may be assumptions or there may be issues that are related to that, we can get the report back from our expert and see what that looks like. And if there are specific issues we want to concentrate further on, we can certainly go back and ask for additional comments at that time. We have not yet received it. The hearing will be left open to allow for that to come in. Hopefully it'll come relatively soon so we can get it out to the applicant, get it out to commission members, and if there's any additional questions, we can have the time for the next meeting.
That was going to be my question, so we're going to have to keep this hearing open.
Yes, the hearing should probably have to be kept open. In theory, if you receive it after the hearing closes, I'm sure the applicant will have the opportunity to respond to it, so.
Yes.
Yes, he would like an opportunity.
Okay, so we're going to keep it open. My question, another question I have is, we heard someone express some concern about pedestrian and bicycle traffic, and I'm assuming this facility will also be used in large part by local teens, local kids, local parents. So it might be actually expected to have bike traffic, called bike traffic, bicycle traffic, and foot traffic. Has that been looked at all? Is that being considered? Traffic expert. I didn't see it in the study.
There was no specific new pedestrian or bicycle accommodations on the roads approaching it. So what there is today, there is. As you get on site, certainly we'll have to look hard to make sure there's connectivity from the public street system through the site, and we'll certainly make sure to take another look at that.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners? Mr. Carr?
This is to the traffic engineer. Have you done anything that speaks to the average daily traffic now and what the average daily traffic will be on each of these streets? I see your numbers, but I think in terms of average daily traffic more than I do these numbers. I just wonder if you have some numbers like that.
We do have some numbers. I can either look them up and give them to you now, or when we come back to the hearing, I'll present them to you more concisely.
And on the issue that was raised about bicycle, on the issue about bicycle and pedestrian traffic, is that something that you would be in a position to address at that time too?
Yes, certainly between Ron and I, we'll make sure that the accommodations on site. Frankly, the state highways, they don't have bicycle lanes, and they have as wide a shoulder as possible to keep the through traffic going. So are they perfect bicycle routes? No, they're not, but they are as they are.
Right, we'd just like to know what that impact is. Just know, some kind of professional evaluation of what that means and what concerns we may want to think about, what kinds of things can or can't be done to try to address that.
We will do that. In general, I would think that most of the bicycles and pedestrians will be coming from the south and the Route 1 area and lots of those areas, as opposed to the long state highway runs from down 81 or down from the top of North High Street. But we'll try to quantify that a little bit and give you some of the characteristics of the roads feeding it, and then what we're doing on site once they get there to accommodate.
Might I suggest that we also query the Police Department Traffic Commission about what's already been sent, so we're waiting for it? A little nudge to see if we can get a response.
Just a comment, from a different generation. I coach baseball, I coach soccer, I coach basketball. Nobody rides their bikes. Not only is it nobody rides their bike, it's nobody, not one. I wish they did. When I grew up here, everybody rode a bike everywhere. It's just, for me, not as big of a concern, because maybe if you build the bike path, they'll come, but they're not there. No.
Anyone else? Anyone else with comments on the commission? Stand, raise their hand. You were going to speak, Mike.
Let me just say one thing. A couple of concerns that was brought up tonight from the people on John Street was the construction application during the time frames. That I think should be considered a time frame doing construction. If people who live on John Street don't want to hear trucks and whatever coming in there. Think about that. And the other thing on that is work. I know when the time comes, construction, we want to get things fast and get it up in the daytime during the days, and on Sundays you probably would like to think about that construction cycle.
We should buy too much.
I just want to clarify some things about the bike usage in town. Route 81 is our state bike route. It is indicated as such. We do have a bicycle pedestrian organization in town that has mapped out certain areas that are focus areas. We do not have a complete streets plan at this point, but you can take into consideration that the high school is directly up the street, and that especially with, the focus of this development, they will be utilizing that. A lot of these kids aren't going to have cars, so they want to come down here to use the site after school. There are sidewalks. They're not great. You see a lot of the bicyclists try to use the sidewalks because it's not safe to ride on Route 81. And you also see skateboarders going up and down the street. I definitely think there will be a lot of use for those types of transportation, pedestrian, bicycles, and crazy as it is, skateboarders. I think it would be beneficial to have within the site plan that type of traffic pattern coming through, some sort of either pedestrian mechanisms or bike paths to indicate how flow through, and also to take it over to North High Street as well.
Anyone else? If not, I'd like to move along.
I move that we continue the public hearing until, that June 1st, will be held in Hall at 7 p.m.
A second for that, please?
Second that.
Spoke at the same time. Let me know, we'll a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstaining? Okay. Continue to June 1st. Item number 4, AR 15052, petition to amend the zone map. Darrell and Richard Connolly change a portion of 10 and 14 West Main Street from R10 to B3, a portion of 10 West Main Street from B2 to B3, and a portion of 17 Commerce Street from R10 to B2. And applicant or agent, you can
Hello, I'm Travis Steiner, the agent for Richard Connolly, and I'm here before you to amend the zoning map to make the entire portion of 10 West Main Street B3 zone. As it sits right now, it's part of 3 different zones, B2, B3, and R10, I think. So hopefully this will just make it a little more uniform. That's it.
Is that simple?
That easy.
Okay, well, let's see if it's easy out there.
Exactly.
We got correspondence.
We have correspondence. All right.
Correspondence is 1, received through May 4, 2015, AR 15-052, petition to amend the zoning map. Darrell and Richard Connolly, change a portion of 10 and 14 West Main Street from R10 to B3, and a portion of 10 West Main Street from B2 to B3, and a portion of 17 Commerce Street from R10 to B2. Letter, March 30th, 2015, letter from Holleran and Sage LLP. March 26, 2015, letter from Carol Zamansky, DEP, OLISP. March 26, 2015, to Planning and Zoning Commission, Julie Putnam, Land Use Technician, 54 East Main Street, Clinton. Rezoning of several properties near Liberty Lane, Darrell and Rick Connolly applicants. Dear Commissioners, thank you for referring this application for a rezoning of several properties to us for review. Project description. The proposal is to rezone several properties from residential R10 to commercial B2 or B3. While these sites do abut a commercial zone, the Commission should determine whether or not the rezoning would fit the definition of spot zoning. For example, the rezoning should not benefit just 1 or 2 property owners, and the rezoning should be in conformance with policies and goals of the Plan of Conservation and Development. Additionally, since the sites are within the DEP designation of designated needs areas, we recommend that new uses are no more intense than current uses, and any redevelopment of the individual sites incorporate low-impact development practices, such as previous surface driveways and curbless parking areas. We find the proposal to rezone in conformance with the goals and policies of the Connecticut Coastal Management Act. Conclusion, we hope that these comments are helpful to the Commission pursuant to CGS Section 22A-110. We request that these comments be read into the record of the public hearing for this application. If we can be of further assistance to you in this or any other coastal management or Long Island Sound related matter, please feel free to contact me. Sincerely, Carol Szymanski.
Okay, is anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Please stand, come forward, and give us your name and address on the pad. Anyone here in favor of this application? Anyone here in favor of this application? Is there anyone here that wishes to speak against this application? Is anyone interested in this application? I'll do it the legal way. Is there anyone here wishing to speak against this application? One more time. Anyone else here to speak about this application in a negative way? Any general comments on this application? General comments on this application? Any general comments on this application? Okay. If not, then it's to the commissioners, comments, remarks, questions. Anyone? Okay, Mr. Carr, the microphone is coming.
I believe the applicant owns 10 West Main, is that correct?
Yes.
And 14 West Main is owned by somebody else, I presume?
Yes.
And do we have any kind of input from the person who owns the property at 14 West Main? I mean, do they even know that we're doing this? I guess have they been advised of it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so they're not here, they know it, you're sure that they know about it, and you're not here objecting, so I guess silence is assent, right?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to echo the comment made by Carol Szymanski, environmental analyst, in the reference to spot zoning. I don't know why she would say that, but our CEO, also former land use attorney, can probably address that better than I can.
I'm not quite sure why she made that comment. However, because you are essentially realigning property lines with zone lines, this is consistent with what you've been trying to do elsewhere in town, and this is not creating a small zone that is unrelated to other adjacent zones. You have B3, which is your general business zone. In the center there, you have B2, which is on the other side. You're just, again, aligning your property lines with your zone lines, which has generally been a preferred goal of this commission. And again, I don't quite understand what the reference was. It may have been tied to one of the other applications, because you sent one letter sort of generally. I don't particularly get the spot zoning reference here. It is a relatively small change, but it's not creating any zones that are isolated from other zones of a similar type. We're going from residence to business, but the business zones you're going next to are adjacent to other business zones that are of similar use, so you're creating just a larger version of zones that are already there. This doesn't really qualify as spot zoning in the traditional sense.
The other question is, this is of greater concern to me, frankly, given the policies and goals in the plan of conservation and development. Are we actually making this a more intense use that would impact water disposal, wastewater disposal issues?
I guess in theory you might be able to use it somewhat more intensely, but we're not rezoning large areas, and we're again rezoning them in ways that are potentially compatible with the adjacent uses. To the extent that this is only making a future application possible, the time to evaluate the impacts on drainage or water or whatever else will probably come when the application comes in. So yes, theoretically, there may be a more intensive use that is made available by being a business zone versus a residential, but the zone change itself doesn't create a more intensive use, it just makes it potentially available for an application, which we'll see at a later date.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you have a use in mind for these parcels that requires the zoning change requested?
This is parking.
Purely for parking. Okay. Another question. The property on Commerce Street, 11 Commerce Street, is kind of B2 and it's in between B3s. Is there a particular reason you left that property off the proposal?
I don't know what you're talking about that.
Well, look at the map.
It's all one zone.
Oh, well, I know that, but you're changing this to B3, this to B3.
Because this is our B2 here.
Yeah, I know what this is, but I'm asking, because this is B3 and everything around it on that side of the street. Just a question.
I guess we could have.
Okay. The other question is, did you consider the parking lot that's contiguous to your property to the west for rezoning? It's R10.
The parking lot behind Chip's Pub?
Yeah, and that is a split lot. I
Didn't
asked
go
the-
that far.
Pardon me?
Didn't go that far.
Yeah, I asked the question because in the Route 1 corridor study, there was a study done for Clinton, which suggested the possibility of creating access to a contiguous strip of parking that ran from Pearl Street to Commerce Street in the backs of all those buildings, so that you could come in on Pearl or come in Commerce and basically have access, direct access from it's just something that was in the Route 1 corridor plan.
Didn't know about it.
Any comments or questions from other commissioners?
I guess the question I have is, if you wanted to add that, that wouldn't be unfriendly to what he's proposing, correct? I mean, if you wanted to add to the...
We cannot do that. It would require a new legal notice because you would have to be essentially amending the application to increase the area. So it could be done, it would just require essentially starting from scratch with that additional piece of property. So it certainly couldn't be folded into the current application without postponing this particular application for another month or two while we get the new legal notice out.
Here on this.
Again, it's also something that can be done by the commission at some later point if that's something that is consistent with the policy of the proposed plan of development or the corridor study. Okay. Anything further from the commission? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Can we ask for clarification on that letter? And I don't want to hold up the application now.
Well, the spot zoning issue, I don't think it's necessary. It was just odd that it would be in there.
You think it's actually relevant to another application?
I don't know what it's relevant to, but I don't think it's relevant to this one. That's just my opinion.
And Eric's as well.
And Eric's as well.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Alan, second. I think Mike went first. Okay, Mike, you got the second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstaining? Okay, it's closed. You might get a decision next week. I suspect you're all here for this one. Number 6, AR 15058, petition to amend the zone map, Shoreline Gardens LLC, change a portion of 31 Old Post Road from R20 to I2, a portion from R30 to I2, a portion from R20 to R30, and a portion from I2 to R30. Mr. Lambert, you mentioned something to me at the outset.
I choose to recuse myself from participation.
Thank you. Hold on, before you proceed, she's going to... Okay, Mr. Lambert?
Yes, as a point of order here,
Microphone?
Yeah, microphone.
thank you. John Lambert, 25 Trumbull Place, North of Connecticut. I'm an attorney licensed practice law in the state of Connecticut. Have been since 1980. And I represent all of the butters and adjacent residential property owners to the subject property. And on their behalf, I would like to ask Mr. Alberino to recuse himself based upon the record that I watched on video of a month ago when this was scheduled. And I don't do this lightly. I've been in practice here in Connecticut for 35 years. This is only the second time I've ever asked any commissioner of any commission to recuse themselves. Here's what the transcript of what I took down, other than a rather scurrilous letter that he read into the record and then said it wasn't part of the record anymore. Quote, I would like to have Pam Fritz recuse herself from this application. I have correspondence from the applicant, and from what I read, she should not be able to have, or she should not be able or have any say whatsoever in this application. Those comments right there suggest that a very unusual procedure here. Commissioners don't bring forth correspondence. Correspondence comes to the commission, not to commissioners. But Mr. Alberino had it, said he had it, and then he said from what he read. So before he even heard any response, he had made up a decision that Ms. Fritz should not be sitting on this matter. Ms. Fritz denied the allegations, which she had already apparently agreed to, and at your request, Mr. Chairman, she, although denying them, decided that you were correct, that it was better in the best interest of the application that it be that she recuse herself. Then at the end of, after reading this lengthy letter, Mr. Alberino said the following, I was there issuing a burning permit for the agricultural use, and they were very upset, and I asked them what was going on. I do not object to any commissioner using their general knowledge of the town in coming to a decision on a zoning, an amendment to the zoning law. But I do very highly object to commissioners speaking about an application outside of this room. And it's fairly clear from what is on the record that Mr. Alberino spoke about this application prior to it coming up for a public hearing. For those reasons, we would ask him to recuse himself. Thank you.
So that I understand exactly the basis for your request to recuse, you're not challenging his ability to objectively look at the application. You're solely saying that because he read something into the record and objected to Ms. Fritz sitting as a commissioner, or is there something in addition to those two things?
What I'm saying is that based on all of the things that I just said, it does bring into question the ability to consider this objectively on the evidence that's brought on the public hearing. Commissioners are not supposed to speak to applicants on a public hearing outside of the hearing. It's completely improper. And in this case, he also indicated fairly clearly that he had, by hearing one side of an application, an applicant, concluded that whatever they said was right and didn't even allow Ms. Fritz to respond or defend herself. And because of that, I would say yes, objectivity is...
So your basis is objectivity of one commissioner on this application, not whether or not he objected to another commissioner having had lack of objectivity.
No, it's all of those. I have also never heard of a commissioner asking to recuse having another commissioner.
I have.
And I was going to say, I said I haven't. Generally speaking, requests for recusal come from members of the public or an applicant or someone. And indeed, that was a request from an applicant. There was a letter there, but Mr. Alberino made the request himself. Again, without ever hearing any response to the letter. What he said was, I have correspondence, and from what I read, which means that he apparently believed what was in the letter, and he had the letter.
shouldn't have had a letter.
The
It should have been right
wait,
here.
wait, in fairness to Mr. Alberino, the letter was handed to him just prior to his reading. That was my impression.
I have no idea when it was handed to him, but the proper thing for a commissioner to do is to say that the chair takes everything.
All right.
I'm done with my remarks. I just
Let's-
wanted to put this on the record.
Let's handle this in the way that I think it should be handled. I will ask this commissioner whether he feels he should recuse himself, because I cannot make anyone recuse themselves. I can ask, but I can't make them, and you know that, Mr. Lambert. So I am going to ask Mr. Alberino to
Can everybody hear
make his
me?
point.
I was out there doing my job for the town of Clinton. The man told me what was going on, and was a woman identified herself as a planning and zoning official and threatened the guy. I said, put it in writing, and I called my chairman, and I gave the letter to my chairman, I sent it to him. I asked Pam to recuse herself because she was biased. There was 3 police officers, all right? She called the major, the chief of the assistant chief of police on a Sunday, and I wanted the guy to have a fair shake. I don't know that guy. I don't know the gentleman at all in question. And I could be objective, and I'm fair. And there was, I don't want this place to become a circus. I asked Pam to accuse herself. She had a big argument with the guy. I don't, you know, what happened was what happened. The police were called. The police were summoned and dispatched her. You can pull the records yourself. That's all I have to say. I am not recusing myself. I will be fair and objective.
And just for the record, if somebody hands me something, I do not have to give it to my chairman. It is proper procedure to give it to my chairman. I may introduce it anytime I want as an elected official.
Okay, well, you have the answer. He will now recuse himself, and we'll proceed. Is there an applicant here? Correspondence. I always forget that. We're important information.
Correspondence list 1, received through May 4th, 2015. AR 15-58, petition to amend the zoning map, Shoreline Gardens LLC, change of a portion of 31 Old Post Road from R20 to I2, a portion from R30 to I2, a portion from R20 to R30, and a portion from I2 to R30. April 13th, 2015, letter from Holler and Sage. April 30th, 2015, letter from Carol Zamansky, DEP OLISP. May 3rd, 2015, email from Carol Conti. Letter from Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, Planning and Zoning Commission, 54 East Main Street, Clinton, Connecticut, April 30th, 2015. RE, proposed zoning changes for several parcels which host a legally non-conforming greenhouse use shoreline gardens applicant. Dear Commissioners, thank you for referring this zone text amendment to us for review. Several parcels are proposed to be rezoned from residential designations to I2 industrial, and one parcel will be rezoned from I2 to R30 residential. Currently, some of these parcels host a greenhouse and a residence as a legal non-conforming use on a residential lot. The purpose of the zone change is to rezone the land hosting the greenhouses to I2 to make that land legally conforming and allow for a free first cut of right to allow the existing residents to be zoned residential on a separate individual lot. While we find the proposed zone changes to be consistent with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, we encourage the Commission to ensure that the rezoning does not qualify as spot zoning by considering whether the zone change benefits a single landowner and whether the size of the parcels justify a zone change. Finally, if approved, we suggest a planted buffer be considered where industrial zoned land abuts residential zoned land in the event that land uses on the industrial property change over time in order to protect established abutting residents. Conclusion. We hope these comments are helpful to the Commission. Pursuant to CGS Section 22A-110, we request these comments be read into the public hearing for this application. If we can be of further assistance to you, in this or any other coastal management or Long Island Sound related matter, please feel free to contact me at 860-424-3138. Sincerely, Carol Zamansky, Environmental Analyst 2, Office of Long Island Sound Programs, Bureau of Water Protection and Land Reuse.
Okay, thank you. Is there an applicant or agent for the applicant here?
There is indeed. For the record, my name is Robert Gregorick. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, and I'm here to provide you all a presentation. Is everyone here for me?
You want to use the microphone, Mr. Bradbury?
Sure.
Here you go, Blake.
Okay, I'm going to do a presentation on the screen. I'm not sure.
I'll get the mic.
Just talking. Thank you.
Get out.
Okay, here we go. We have a single parcel of land that we would like to have the zone changes brought about to make it more appropriate to the existing long-term use of the property. The property is 31 Old Post Road, and it's been a single lot for quite a few years. The current owners, pointer. Okay, the current owners purchased the property in 2004, so it's not something where they bought the property last year and decided to make changes to it. They've had it for a long period of time, and the business on the portion of the property that's currently existing has been in place for about 30-odd years. The house that's on the property was built in the 1800s, so it's also of long-standing use. Okay, this is an aerial photograph taken in 1986. And lo and behold, we have the greenhouse operation showing on the 1986 photo, which obviously indicates that it's not something that was erected the other day. It's been there for a long period of time. This is an aerial photograph of the property. We have the existing house that again was built in the 1800s. The farm stand that is the area where they do their transactions, business transactions, and then there's greenhouses which have been there for decades, and those are used for greenhouse operations. Now, where that gets interesting is here. We have the zoning map of the property. So we currently have an area of the property through here that's R20 zoned. We have the area of the property where the greenhouses are, that's R30 zoned. We have the lower portion of the property where the existing house is, that's in an I2 zone, so it's an industrial zone. So for the past 30 years, the commercial portion of the property has been in a residential zone. The house itself has been an industrial zone. And we would like to change the zoning of this property to make it more compatible with that is actually use there.
Yes.
And this map shows what we would like to do. The house is in an R20 zone, or it's in an I2 zone. We could have made it either R20 or R30. We chose to make it R30 because now we've got a connection with the existing R30 zone. And we have our proposed lot line here, which if the zoning map is approved, we'll go through with a free lot split and turn this into 2 parcels. The area in the R30 zone, which hopefully will happen, will become residential. It will more than conform with the minimum standards of the R30 zone. The commercial area, which will be contiguous with the existing I2 zone, will be entirely an I2 zoned area, and the uses that are in place and have been in place for the last 30 years will be compatible with that zone. We've done soil testing at the site, and there's no issues as far as B100A considerations for the property, and that's pretty much it. And I think there's a lot clearer than the map I submitted. Yeah. Any questions?
Well, before we get to the commission and questions, we're going to take it to the public and ask them. Sure. Oh, yeah. I apologize, I forget. You can't hear me back there. First thing we will do is we'll ask the public to comment in favor, against, and in general, and then we'll get to the commission with our questions, concerns, comments. So, yeah, can we have someone turn the lights on? Back in the audience. You can leave that on.
I'll get the lights.
Okay. Leave it on? You can leave it on, unless it's going to blow your light there. You can leave it on, right?
Back to the John, it won't be a problem.
Okay, I don't know if there's going to be any reference to it. Anyone in favor wishes to come forward and speak, this is your opportunity. As we did in the past, immediate past, identify yourself, write your name and address on the pad in the corner of the table there by Mr. Alberino, and you can do so. Anyone in favor of this application? That's the second time. Anyone in favor of this application that wants to speak? That's the third time. Anyone that wants to speak against this application? There's a lot of people here, so I imagine there's a few. Come forward, identify yourself, write your name on that pad, and tell us your concerns.
Vince Amino again, and going back as far as December 13th of 2013, there was an effort on a planning map that was generated by CME, the planning consultant, to join the Pinder property and this property together in a special industrial zone. And I believe that I did. And I've written down. Okay, so I came forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission at that time because first I questioned CME, and they said that that parcel was created as a result of comments from the Planning Committee. And I attend the Planning Committee meetings regularly, and I knew that there was never any input nor suggestion from anyone on the Planning Committee that those two parcels be joined together in a special industrial new zone. So after I pointed that out, and I came to the commission and pointed it out as well, the commission rejected it, demanded that it be taken off the map, and a new map was generated, which no longer joined the two parcels. And yet, here we have again an attempt to rezone the property that's tangent to a property that is already creating a neighborhood nuisance by its noise and activity. That new map was generated on 3/14/14, to me at least, and I think shortly afterwards to the commission members. I'm already on record, I'm totally opposed to this rezoning because I believe that it will have a negative, severe negative effect on the quality of life and the property values in the immediate area. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishes to speak against this application?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter Lucchese. I live at 2 Mary Mack Road in Clinton. I've been a real estate broker for 51 years. I've chaired planning boards and I've sat on wetland commissions. And I believe this application should not be approved for the following reasons. If this rezoning application is approved, it will have a large and lasting negative impact on the neighbors and the neighborhood. Impact property values. As a former planning commission and broker, I have worked with buyers and sellers in property. I've been doing so in Connecticut for the past 15 years, and I have, on a daily basis, I work with buyers looking to buy commercial and residential properties. The buyers that look to buy the residential properties for rentals, part of their criteria is to find properties next to or near commercial zones because they're at a discount, they're 35 to 50% less than other properties. They don't intend to live there, they intend to rent them out to tenants. The visual aesthetic, actually negatives in this case, the industrial zone lots are not visually and aesthetically attractive. I wouldn't want to live next to one, and I don't think many people here would want to live next to one as well. There's pollution that could be generated. You're talking about water pollution, air, noise, and soil contamination. That's possible. When you have industrial property across the street and then it starts creeping on this side of the street, it doesn't do anyone good at all in the community. An application like this, I see it as a personal gain, and I don't believe it's the right thing for the board to do. And I don't think it's good for the community and the neighbors. Thank you.
I just want to mention, I know the spontaneity of applause is just that, spontaneous, but, we're going to go on for quite a while, I'm certain. If you could just refrain from, outbursts of any kind, I'd appreciate it. Just think of this, and I've said it before, those of you that attended other public hearings know how I feel about it. It's much like a court of law, and I don't think you applaud in a court of law because a witness has made a statement. So let's treat it that way, with all due respect. I understand the emotion, but we're trying to do some business. It's all administrative. So thank you. Mr. Lambert.
I guess I will.
Did you sign in already? Or
Well, I signed in before when I first signed up at.
That was, he was the first one to sign in, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, so why don't you proceed, Mr. Lambert?
Thank you.
I know you work on an hourly basis. So.
Wish I did. And I'm not looking for any applause here. You look to leave with my skin intact, that's all. When I took this on, the first thing I recognized the power of this commission to rezone its of land in the town from time to time. And
Can you talk into the mic?
it has been given, that power has been given to you by the legislature, and no one in town has the right to expect that everything will stay the same forever. Those things I will concede. But your residents do have a right to expect that changes will be in conformity, or at least with a look towards the plan of conservation and development, and make sense. So I'd like to start with a comment on responding to Carol Szymanski, I think, OLIS. First of all, she talked about there being several parcels. And as Mr. Graberick says, there's one parcel. One parcel happens to be in 3 zones. So she was totally wrong there. But then she seemed to, if I understand, say that the greenhouses are a non-conforming use. And my first comment would be, the greenhouses come under nurseries and is an agricultural use which is permitted in a residential zone. On the other hand, nurseries are not one of the uses that I saw in any industrial zone. So I don't understand how Mr. Graberick is saying this brings it into conformity with what's gone on there. It is true, those greenhouses have been there. One of my clients obtained a building permit dated 1980 for the first 2 greenhouses. That was the Seals that owned this, S-E-A-L-E. They bought it from the Platts they bought the 7 acres or 7 or 8 acres in 1976 and got a building permit. And there's nothing that I have found that said they needed a variance or that there's been something that's changed that has disallowed greenhouses in a residential zone. So they're a perfectly permitted use from what I can gather. Farms are permitted, and this is part of it. Farm stands are permitted. So I tend to disagree with Mr. Graberick's representation or discussion or description of what's going on here. The people that live in the residential zone have no objection to the portion of it that would rezone the little, rather unusable I-2 portion to R30. That's fine. But they do very much oppose the change of the bulk of the property to an I-2 zone. So let me go back to a few points here. In 1965, I gather, I don't know if you had any earlier zoning, but 1965 seems to be the point of departure now. So 1965 is the beginning, and I have a 1965 zoning map, which zoned this area north of the railroad tracks from over near Long Hill Road or Liberty Street. Can't quite tell which it is there. I guess it's probably Liberty Street. Within 300 feet of that, clear over to Bluff Avenue. 600 feet north of the railroad tracks was zoned I-2. If you look at your, and I'd like to submit this should be part of your records anyway. If you look at your current zoning map, you'll see that the trend over the past 50 years has been, for the most part, reduction of that original I-2 zone, not increase of it. So that the area over towards Liberty Street or Long Hill Road, most of that has been rezoned R20. And below the railroad tracks, the industrial area, a large portion of it was zoned residential for Founders Village. So the trend here has not been that there's a need to add industrial land, but rather to reduce what was originally proposed 50 years ago. And again, times change. I understand that 50 years things wouldn't necessarily be expected to remain static, but this isn't the way that they're going. So as I said the residents have a right to expect that changes conform to the plan of conservation and development, or at least that you give serious thought to it. And given that you are a combined planning and zoning commission, your planning hat is advising your zoning hat as to what to do. So right now, you have a current plan of, one that I'm looking at is dated 2005, Plan of Conservation and Development. And there's not a lot that I could find that was really very relevant, but I note to you that the applicant didn't make any reference to this, didn't point to one line in this that says, this is why we should be doing this, it's in our current plan of development. I do point you to, though, in the future land use map is under commercial development, that's 3, part Roman numeral 8A, subsection 3, and this is under 801, I don't know if that's a page number or not, future land use map, A3, commercial development. Clinton has had a history of allowing new commercial strip development in previously undeveloped areas to the detriment of existing commercial areas. This future land use map emphasizes the improvement and reuse of existing areas in preference to creating entirely new commercial focal points and new locations. The greenhouse is not an industrial use by any stretch of the imagination. But the point is, to the extent that it's a commercial use that is approved in residential zones because it's agricultural, the idea is not to expand new commercial uses into areas that they haven't had them. And the most important point here is, it's all well and good to say that this would make it conform. What it would do, if you look at your I2 uses, is allow shopping centers, it would allow restaurants, it would allow all sorts of things, and the only way to get to the I2 zone would be through a poor road that goes to residential districts to get to an I2 district. Never seen that in any town, but that's just part of my argument that it's bad planning here. Another portion that I would like to highlight to you is in industrial districts, and your current plan of conservation and development doesn't say much, but it talks about there's some difference in it in the various industrial districts, and for some reason it's not clear why these differences exist. So it wasn't so much the issue in your current plan of development was not so much where to do things, but changes that should be made. Have no idea whether you made those changes. So I would like to bring to your attention, I agree with Mr. Graverick's aerial photography. I'd like to share with you a little bit more. And I have 6 copies. I have no idea how many, maybe 7 copies. State aerial photography from 1934 to 2010. The Yukon Magic site you're probably familiar with has these maps, these aerial shots available. I believe the years are 1934, and then because of the war and for some other reason, the next aerial photography of this was 1957, then 1965, then 70, then for some reason no more, or at least available until 86. And 90, 95, 2000 or 2004, and 2010. If you look at 1934, that's 80 years ago, and not surprisingly, most of Clinton in this area was farming. But very interestingly, this piece, which stands out in that 1934 photo, was clearly a working farm. There were a lot more buildings visible on this piece of property, and it is scoured clean. It's a field. Almost the entire piece of property with, yes, and you can see there's several buildings that wouldn't be on there, that don't exist there today. You go to 1957 and you see that the farming seems to have been at least somewhat abandoned because there are evergreen trees dotting the entire landscape of what had been a scoured field, and there aren't many structures left. That's pretty consistent with what happened in the state. 1970 still looks the same, and by the next one, 1986, you see the greenhouses. And as I said to you, our research showed a building permit was issued in 1980. So 35 years ago, the Seals, who bought in 1976, invested and appropriately used residential land for greenhouses. And they held that for from 76 till 2004, so close to 30 years. And they sold it to Shoreline Gardens LLC, which, and it was, by the way, it was shown as being called Shoreline Farms, I believe, in those days when the Seals owned it. And they sold, there was a sign that said they sold perennials and whatnot, and I'll submit a copy of an appraisal we have. And at that, excuse me, the Seals ran Shoreline Farms and had it open substantially more of the year than Shoreline Gardens has had it open. That said, it looks largely the same today. Maybe they've done some good improvements to those houses, I don't know. But from the air, it looks the same today as it did in the 1986 photo, pretty all built out. As Mr. Grabrick says, the current owner, an LLC, purchased this in 2004, and I have here, provided by Donna Stepankas, a appraisal done in July of 2004. It's 2 or 3 months before they acquired the property, which the deed is dated in September of 2004. I'll submit this, but the most important part is a page that I have included, which is an addenda, and it talks about the subject property. The subject property is a 7.6 acre parcel with a 1,842 square foot colonial house. The colonial was built in 1855. The house has been essentially renovated, da-da-da-da-da. Highest and best use. The highest and best use of the subject is a residential development that includes the existing house. The use of the subject as an owner/operated retail greenhouse with primary residence is an interim use. I'd like to submit that. The current owner bought this knowing and representing, by the way, to its lender, that the highest and best use of the land is residential, and that the house would be incorporated into a future residential use. The highest and best use was not indicated as being industrial, and there's nothing in the record of the applicant that suggests anybody here who says it is. I contrast this, please, with the zoning amendment that was made as item number 3 tonight, and item number 8, where all sorts of experts came out and talked about it. And appraisers, they had engineers and whatnot. This simply is not, no one has ever said it was the highest and best use. It's just a use that's wanted by these people. So, I have petitions here that I would like to submit. But first, I would like to submit the printouts from Vision Appraisal of the, let's call it abutting or adjacent. And by adjacent, I mean the ones that are across Old Road from them. They may not abut because the road may be there, and who knows who the title of the road is. But assuming that the owners on Old Road own the middle of it, assuming that the Shoreline owns the middle of it, they would be abutting owners. So there are a number of them, and the reason it was and it may still be, it's hard to know. The selectmen voted to discontinue it in the 1990s, but the law requires, discontinuance requires 2 things. It requires the, let me back up, only selectmen can discontinue a road. Only selectmen, under our statutes. But it has to be with what used to be called the approbation, and now I think they use a better word, approval, of the town, which in this town would be the town meeting. So, and the case law says it doesn't matter whether the town meeting acts first or second. In other words, the town meeting can say, we approve and hope that the selectmen will discontinue such and such road. And then if the selectmen do it, done. The selectmen can act first and then the town. It's unclear to me whether the town has ever acted, the town meeting. A court case from a couple of years ago had a judge say that the selectmen did their work, but that A, it was clear that the town meeting had not, and then he asked the question of has it been abandoned, which is slightly different than discontinued, but said, how can you say it's abandoned when the shoreline says our customers, this road is open to the public for our customers, how can that be?
Does anybody plow it?
Not that I know of. My understanding is probably not, but I do a lot of this as a lawyer, and that is the real question is if both ends haven't been done, both the selectmen and the town meeting, the real question is whether the public uses it, regardless of what the town meeting is saying. And from what I understand, people still cut through. The fact that it's not well taken care of probably reduces the amount of people that do. But if the public goes through it, it's there. And if mail is delivered on it, I assume mail is delivered to the people on that road, then it becomes what's called a post road under the United States Constitution. So I don't think the town maintains, and once you get past the Shoreline Gardens driveway, it's pretty rough. It's unimproved. But an unimproved road is does not mean that it's private. I want to first submit just a bunch of vision appraisal printouts, and that's mainly to substantiate my claim as to when houses were built, and this has to do with what I call reasonable expectations. This is the zone change map, and I have highlighted in every single residential property that abuts this, with the name of the owner per the assessor, and the date in which their house was built. I'll turn this in, but I just want to read it into the record right now. There are 4 houses on West Woods that abut the property: Mosney, Winans, Conti, and Lane, L-E-H-N. I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of those other than Conti correctly. Mosney, 1986, Winans, 1985, Conti, 1986, Lynn, 1986. On Settlers, Dale Van Tienen's house, 1966. Again, after zoning. 1 house was built before zoning, that's Smith, that abuts it to the west. And then Bonnie Lane, Navarra, and the Nazados abutted, and they were 2002 for Nazado and 2003 for Navarra. On Old Road, you have Stepankas. Actually, Stepankas has an address of Old Post Road, but Stepankas is 1977, Fritz is 1978, and Douglas is 1990. I would like to submit this map because it is my argument, once again, that although people can't expect that nothing changes, every one of these people essentially built a house adjoining residential property. And to use maybe a bad example, I'll concede that 1 century ago there was probably a farm or 2 left on Manhattan Island. And we know there aren't any today. But there is no sort of pressure here like there is in Manhattan to put a 15-story apartment building. There's none. These people bought with a proper use next door, an agricultural nursery use, something permitted in a residential zone. They all purchased it that way, and not one of them is in favor of it. Last month in that scurrilous letter that was read to you, the owner said, we allowed a person that rents, I guess, from Pam Fritz to park because that's what a good neighbor does. A good neighbor would have contacted people here, any of their neighbors, but didn't. And none of them are happy with this proposed change. You see that quite a bit of the property there is shown as being wet. So you have a huge review area, upland review area. And why you would make this industrial is simply beyond me. In your, going back to the issue on amendments, your zoning regulations has a list, an appendix of, so for example, in July of 1969, there was a R30 to I2. That was the sort of hump that makes up Heritage Industrial Park. Remember I told you when you have the map for 1965, it was a parallel line. So that was an increase in it. But since then, all of the other, part of Bonnie Lane was changed in 1996, it says. May 1st, 1996, approved the April, I'm sorry, that's Victoria Manor. Settlers Lane to Long Hill Road, Herman Pugler Jr. rezoned portion from I2 to R20. The history in your regulations is that this area has gone, if anything, basically from industrial to residential, not the other way, in the past 50 years. And those are expectations that people come with. So now, I would like to confirm two more things here. There was, Mr. Semino referred to a plan of conservation focus area, and I only have a map that shows this property proposed, this particular property, subject property, proposed as distribution center development focus area, draft for discussion purposes, and I'd like to submit that. That apparently is what Mr. Semino was referring to as having come from CME to the planning committee, saying, here's a map that reflects the planning committee's determination, pretty close to correct on what the email said. And somebody or somebodies saw that and said, wait a minute. There's never, just as Mr. Speen said, there's never been any input suggesting that this piece of property get changed. None. And so when they were called upon it, they sent additional maps that don't have this on there, and I'd like to submit them. There's 2 pages with some highlight comments after that. But my point is, let's go to the plan of conservation and development. The current one certainly does not support this. You're in the process of coming up with the new one. During, and I guess you're going to vote on it in a few months.
Yes, that's okay. I can say.
During the process, it was floated, let's make this let's change the zone on this. It went to your planning committee, and your planning committee said, and CME backed off. And it's not before them now. So it got no traction then. Now, I suppose this commission could say to CME when they get the plan, everything in that plan is beautiful. It's the one thing I got, you should have rezoned the shoreline gardens into industrial. That's the only mistake. Let's vote on changing that and we'll pass it through. But that's not the process that I know of for a plan of conservation and development. It's not in your current one. It has no traction and no suggestion at this point of development from your planning committee that suggests that that's an appropriate use of the land. So the final thing I would like to do is submit to you petitions signed. The main petition reads as follows. We, the undersigned, respectfully ask the Planning and Zoning Commission to deny an application submitted by Shoreline Gardens LLC requesting a zone change at 31 Old Post Road from residential R20 and R30 to industrial I2 zone. On this, there are 13 houses that are circled in green on Bonnie Lane that oppose it. There are, I think, 11 houses on, 10 houses on West Woods. All of the houses along Old Road and Old Post Road, as I said, that abut it. And Settlers Lane, there's a number, I think it's again about a dozen houses on Settlers Lane that oppose this. And there are dozens and dozens of other people that are not as close, but some of them are on Old Post Road and not abutting, that have opposed this. And I think you've seen when you asked for, is there anyone supporting this? Certainly no one came to support this. So I'd like to submit these petitions. I am not suggesting that rezoning is a popularity contest, not suggesting that at all, but I think the input of my submission would be that the input of people who will be most affected should be taken very seriously. And as I said, in sort of conclusion, the expectation of these people, I think, would be gravely changed and harmed if you were to rezone this, because the uses permitted in an I-2 zone do not include what's there, and they only include things that would be incredible headaches to people who have built their backyards on those. And with that, I'm here to answer your questions, but...
Well, do you speak for all these people that are here tonight? Because
not
I'm
at all.
certainly ready to canvass.
Not
them.
at all. He's not speaking for me at all.
Okay. What I'm going to ask you, Mr. Landon, is that we clarify one suggestion, and that is that CME had any input at all in this. You know, I'm getting the sense that you were suggesting that CME had, our planning consultant, had anything to do with this application, maybe not.
No, that's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that strangely, oddly, CME suggested it, the same thing, or something similar, change the zone of this large piece. And that was seen by the planning committee, and the planning committee has already effectively rejected that and said no, and CME has changed it. So what I'm saying, my point...
I just want to be clear.
Yes,
that suggestion is not out there.
That's correct.
Okay.
That is not my suggestion.
Mr. Chair, may I ask you a question?
Sure. Well, first I have to determine whether there are any other members of the public that want to speak. There was a gentleman that came up just ahead of you. There he is.
Just point of order. Is it proper to ask him who he represents?
He represents the people in the petition.
He stated that.
You're
He
hired
stated
by the
that.
people of the petition.
I was hired by a group of people that came to a meeting last week up at the sports complex, organized by Mr. Navarra, who is one of the abutters on Bonnie Lane. And at that meeting, they chose to represent me. I don't know everybody who's there who would say I'm representing them. I don't claim to represent people that don't want me to represent them. But a number of neighbors asked me to come here and present a hopefully reasoned presentation.
Okay, so to be clear, those individuals represented in the petition that you handed in are not your clients? Or maybe some are?
Some are, that's right. There are a number of names there that I've never heard of.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
I think, does he have a letter of engagement?
I don't know that it matters, frankly, but you can answer it if you wishes.
No.
All right. You, sir, I think you were going to speak against this application. Okay.
I'm Dave Smith. I've never talked to Mr. Holbert, but trying to get some of the similar type things.
Speak up, please.
Well, the reason I was asking the question is because there are a couple of dozen people here, and I certainly don't want to go through all 24, 36, or 40 that are going to say essentially the same thing, because it's...
We realize we're here too, okay, and we're kind of affected by this whole deal. So, that being said, we own a property on 18 Settlers Lane that Mr. Lyman spoke of earlier, and along with the Navarros, they're probably most affected by the proposed change to investment. As a point of reference, approximately 375 feet of our lot borders shoreline gardens. Of that, 250 feet directly faces the 6 greenhouses that are now been erected. The corner of our deck is approximately 60 feet off the lot line, and our pool is approximately 35 feet off the same line. We also have a quarter-acre pond on our property, the outline of which forms a small stream that separates the two properties for some distance and eventually empties into Long Island Sound. As you might surmise, I am totally opposed to this petition for numerous reasons. 19 years ago, we bought our house partially because of the wooded setting, which is extremely important to us, having moved from Connecticut to Maine. Shoreline Gardens at that time had 4 greenhouses and didn't appear to distract from the setting. In November of 1996, a portion of Settlers Lane and Long Hill Road was rezoned from I-2 to R20. And in July of 2002, the area of Bunny Lane was rezoned from I-2/R20 to R20, effectively removing the I-2 zoning. While not favoring doubling the number of homes in our neighborhood, Bonnie Lane was approved. In part, this was pitched to the existing homeowners as a means of increasing the value of our home during the In part, this was pitched to the existing homeowners as a means of increasing the value of our homes, period. During the time Bonnie Lane was being built, we were subjected to blasting, rock crushing, noise, dust, a constant parade of trucks, and all the other negative aspects of building a subdivision. We have also been subjected to the establishment of a truck repair business with its associated inconveniences. Fast forward to 2015. Both my wife and I are ready to retire. Sherry in 12 days and me within a year. We are looking forward to being able to enjoy the life we have built in Clinton, to enjoy the ducks, turkeys, birds, and other wildlife that frequent our property, enjoy sitting in the morning sun, reading the paper, and having a cup of coffee. Unlike many of our friends, the intent was to stay in Clinton rather than relocate elsewhere and start all over again. We are now faced with the possibility of having this disappear through the proposed change to industrial zoning. I would propose that you look at our collective position. How would you react if faced with the same situation? How would you, like your elected and volunteer officials, to act? You can all see the handwriting on the wall. The greenhouse has been on the market on and off for several years without selling. The owners are anxious to move back to Massachusetts and be near their family. The owners of the business abutting the greenhouse are looking to expand their operation, which conceivably could include a rock crushing facility. In review of what has transpired on their property does not bode well for considering them as good neighbors. You, as members of planning and zoning, are responsible for maintaining the neighborhoods, the village setting, and the historic area of Clinton. These will all be negatively impacted if you decide to change the zoning. Also negatively affected would be the value of our homes, not only in Settlers and Bonnie Lanes, but on Long Hill, Brush Hill, Mary Mack, Westwoods, and others as well. I would also ask, isn't the Charter of Planning and Zoning to look at consistency? If a decision was made to change zoning from industrial to residential because it was a better fit for the land for the surrounding area, i.e. Bonnie Lane, why would a change back to industrial be allowed in the abutting properties within 8 years? This proposal also reeks of changing zoning to allow for personal and financial gain, not for the better use of land within the vision of the planning and zoning in mind. My opposition to this proposed change is based on 1, the negative impact of established neighborhoods, decrease in home values, the decrease in quality of life, the possible effect on the environment, especially air and water quality, as mentioned, the stream separating our property from Shoreline Gardens empties into the sound. Not to mention the noise of trucks and equipment. There is also this concern that this change does not mimic the town plan of conservation and development for the future of Clinton. Similarly, there is fear of the unknown. This proposed change will be the catalyst for future petitions. This action is smoke and mirrors, which is intended to lead to the sale of Shoreline Gardens. Lastly, previous actions led to an intent to establish a rock crushing facility. Say that 3 times fast. which has no place in the area composed of residences, supported by small stores, restaurants, churches, a historic area, and the town center, which defines the village zone on the P&Z website. This proposal, as well as that concerning the old Unilever property, if approved, across on Old Forest Road, spells disaster to the quality of life as we now know it to our neighborhoods, encompassing Main Street, Liberty Street, Long Hill Road, Rush Hill Road, and Post Road. And incidentally, no one has come forward with the civic support for this petition, unlike that given tonight at the Unilever first area complex. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else that wants to speak against this application? If there's several of you that are planning to speak against the application and is not going to be making a statement that is essentially redundant, please line up and sign your name so that we can save a little bit of time that way. No, we can't do it that way. It's not allowed under the law.
All right, good evening. Thank you for hearing me speak tonight. My name is Justin Winans. I live on, 11 Westwood Drive. So this affects me directly. So I am definitely opposed to it. So I promise I didn't tie too much of your time. But my question is very simple. I had a lot to say tonight, but I'll cut right to the chase. Very simply is that.
Speak into the mic.
Very simply is that precedent has been set by Bonnie Lane that in any case where there's something changed to an industrial park or industrial zoning, value property depreciates, very simply. And we're concerned about our value depreciating. That said, is that if our value of our property depreciates, we would lose value in our homes, i.e. the town would lose value in its tax base because all of us would turn around and obviously we have our value of our homes reassessed. And also, I said, why would the council even consider, given all this opposition to this proposal, even give it any kind of warrant? That was my question. I was going to go on a lot longer, but again, it's just a general question: is why would we consider changing the zone to have all of our property values appreciate, have it reassessed? And we've heard a lot this evening about pretty much values and tax bases and how much revenue we're going to get and this that. Why would we even consider that? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I see a long line for me. Will you please sign in ahead of time? Come up to the table and sign in while the speaker is speaking. And I think at this point, seeing the length of the line, we're going to limit this to 2 minutes each, if you don't mind. I think you can say what you have to say within 2 minutes.
30 seconds. As a concerned citizen and neighbor, I object to any portion of your property being rezoned to.
Identify yourself.
I'm so sorry. Ellen Kavanaugh, 29 Founders Village, Clinton. As a concerned citizen and neighbor, I object to any portion of this property being rezoned to industrial. Thank you.
There's a lot of people. 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Leo Moore. I live at 15 Settlers Lane. I moved in 1966. I built my house. It was residential. The developer, when I moved in, I had to build a colonial house because his vision was to have it in keeping with the village atmosphere of Liberty Street and the area. He had a lot, 2 lots that they weren't full lots. They were access roads because he envisioned the street was called Settlers Lane, and then it was to be Settlers Village because he envisioned putting in more residential houses, which is Bonnie Lane now. This property abuts my property, along with Dave. My neighbor before Dave, excuse me, this is very emotional. My neighbor, original neighbor, when I moved in, they had just built their house. at 18, or next door. Ron was in the nursery business, and he was delighted to have the farm next door and to have it in the nursery. He ran his mother's nursery in Norwich, and I know that he hoped that someday maybe that would be his. So the character is residential, and it will really adversely affect our property values. And I thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is John Conti. I live at 9 Westwoods Drive, and I know that I don't want to be redundant. There's been a lot said tonight, but it's about fairness from everybody on the commission. How would you like to be in our position? Or if you were subjected to the same thing that we're being subjected to? We all bought our properties in good faith. When I purchased my property 28 years ago, I made sure I was in a residential zone. And now 28 years later, someone is telling me that I might be next to an industrial zone. It will reduce my property taxes, probably 15, of my property value, probably 15 to 20%. Thank you.
Justin Mosney, 12 Westwoods Drive. I order the proposed site. I have a 16-month-old son and another one on the way in a month. This is not the type of property I envision raising my children in. That's all I have to say.
David Lane, 7 Westwoods Drive, and not to be redundant, but I'm also concerned and I'm against this proposal because of property value concerns. I have 3 children as well. I directly border this property, and I'm against it.
Thank you. Next.
I'm Jack Maroney. I live at 38 Brush Hill Road, and I'll be brief. I oppose this planning change to industrial for all the reasons that are previously mentioned.
Yeah, I won't even take up 30 seconds. I'm just to say, one comment I heard before was providing residential property next to commercial to rent out. Well, I bought residential property next to commercial, and I've been there almost 20 years. I don't plan on going anywhere. So, no.
Thank you.
My name is Dennis Labakis. I live at 35 Old Post Road, right next door to Shoreline Gardens, and I'm just opposed to it. That's all I have to say.
I'm Charles Labakis. I live at 35 Old Post Road, and I oppose the application.
Hi, good evening. I'm David Moore, and I'm wholeheartedly in opposition for the same reasons that my neighbor and my wife have so eloquently pointed out. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Sherry Smith. I live at 18 Settlers Lane, and I just basically wanted to say that Connecticut shoreline is a destination spot for visitors and home to most of us sitting in this room. This is the time to really determine what we want Clinton overall to be now and in the future. To maintain it as a beautiful shoreline town requires residential neighborhoods, old colonial homes, quaint shops, and walkways overlooking the sound, or do you want it to become a noisy, unsightly industrial area? I strongly strongly oppose the zone change to industrial, which benefits a select few but hurts so many surrounding homeowners directly, and the future of our scenic town overall.
Hi, I'm Carol Martell, and I live at 6 Bond Lane. And as a lot of you know, we've been through a lot together, and fortunately, we stayed with. But it would be absolutely horrible for you to have to sit on my back deck and see what you can see down the street if that happens to people who purchase that property. So I am completely opposed to it. Thank you.
I'm Giovanni, and I live at 12 Bonnie Lane, and that we have already seen our property values go down after the industrial zone of the Kinder property behind us. We look out now, it's a very ineffectual buffer. We look out and we see all types of construction equipment. We've had to put up with rock crushing and noise. They can start running their trucks at like 6 in the morning, and they can run they have a permission, they can work as late as 8 o'clock at night. At one time, we had spotlights that were shining on our property, and in our next door neighbor, they had it even into their bedroom. I'm totally against the expanding the industrial zone.
I'm Steve Navarro, and Lane. I just want to speak against the zone change from residential industrial. By agreeing to this change, we will be not only reducing the property values of the surrounding area, but also destroying the residential neighborhoods built up here over the last 50 years. I don't believe that this was the intent of our town plan. As stated in Section 6, looking to the future, the goals and policies, Ward 1 of the community character, it states to maintain property values and preserve the character of Clinton as a small New England coastal town by protecting and enhancing the aesthetic and historical qualities of the town. And after all, we aren't spending over $60 million on a new high school for it to be underutilized. The new school should be a reason for people to move here to Clinton and raise their families. But that won't happen if residential neighborhoods like ours aren't protected and allowed to flourish.
It's 30 Old Road. I don't oppose the applicants. They're nice people and they sell great flowers. But I really don't want an industrial zone closer to my house than it already is. I live on the worst road in town. I maintain it myself. It's not easy. No, thank you.
My name is Don Nicholson from 7 Settlers Lane, and you've heard a lot of the common things, but what doesn't make sense to me is if the company that owns that property that wants to change it can operate what they're doing now without any problems, why would we give them a change in zoning? The only reason that they wanted, to my way of looking at it, is if they want to expand, to do more and more aggressive industrial stuff, and once it's changed to industrial, the most aggressive industrial activities can happen there. And that's why a lot of people are very opposed to it. And the other point is, it seems to me, if the only other financial advantage for them to have it would be so that it would be more sellable to property like the owners that abut them that already have the industrial zone. So I think it's more important for the committee to look at the value of the property, the quality of life, rather than making this change that would only benefit the financials of the adjacent of that property. Thank you.
Dan Fritz, I live on 14 Mill Road. With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I have a letter from the Windover Wings property, which is a 22 Old Road. She is now relocated to Dresden, Maine. She was unable to be here, obviously, but she asked me if I would read this into the record.
You can, I'm not taking away your First Amendment rights.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I believe that a member of the commission can only represent themselves. I believe it's against the law to do this. I believe.
I recused myself.
You know, but you're still a member of the commission. Just, Eric, just correct me.
Okay, two points. One of which is she can always represent herself. Second of all, if the only purpose here is for her to read someone else's letter on the record, I don't think that's representing that person. She's trying to say that she's speaking on behalf of somebody else, it's a different story. If she's been asked to read a letter of the record, I don't think that rises to the level of representing that particular.
Would it be reasonable for her to hand it to Michael and have Michael read it into the record? That's how we normally would do it.
If that's how you want to do it, fine, but I still want to make personal comments.
You can read the letter. Let Pierre.
I can read the
Let's get
letter.
on with it.
Okay, thank you.
We don't want to
Okay.
get too tangled.
To whom it may
You have
concern,
First Amendment rights.
to whom it may concern, I own the log cabin at 22 Old Road in Clinton, Connecticut. I understand Shoreline's Gardens may have prospective buyer apply to Clinton's Planning and Zoning Commission to have the property rezoned for an industrial park. I'm against this rezoning not only as a property owner, but from an environmental perspective. A portion of the acreage is wetlands. Wind Over Wings Incorporated is a nonprofit raptor rehabilitation and education service and was located for over a decade at that log cabin. It provided a safe haven for injured birds and was a place that people could visit for a peaceful restorative experience. Although the birds in our care no longer are in Connecticut, that location is still vital to wildlife. I am on the planning board of Dresden, Maine. I appreciate their keen awareness of the importance of trees and wetlands in our environment. I would hope that Clinton's Planning and Zoning Commission would also protect the environment for future health and welfare of the residents and migratory birds. Respectfully submitted, Hope M. Douglas, founder, president of Wind Over Wings. And I'd like to make a personal comment. I am a property owner on Old Road. I would like to point out one thing that is, I think, critical. At one particular point in time, the owners, the property owners on Bonnie Lane, I know, actually had all of their, because of property devaluation, because of their location to the I-2 Kinder construction property, they appealed all of their taxes and they were all lowered because their houses were devaluated due to the proximity of that particular location. I would also like to simply reiterate my own personal experience in the past where there was construction, continuous rock crushing activities, things that are allowed within the industrial zoning. There still are large cranes, large equipment that are allowed in the industrial zoning. If this were allowed to go into this particular proposed area, all of that could be possible. And I'm certainly opposed to this application.
Can we say it?
I'm Jeff Cashman, 66 River Road. I own a piece of property there that we have a farm use on at this time. I was looking around the room, I didn't see. Is Mr. and Mrs. Baker here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We're here.
I'm here to stand against your proposal only because I believe you're ignorant of your rights. I'm not here to publicly attack you. I'm here to tell you what your rights are with your farm. You have what was known and said here tonight, a legal, non-conforming piece of property. That is a section in the zoning regulations here today that because of your historical event of farming on your property, you are non-conforming to the zoning regulations of the town of Clinton. It's been stated by the attorney tonight. It is in your definition that you need to know that the adjacent pasture properties that you own, you can legally use anytime you want for farming. Do you know that?
Yes.
Okay. Today, the recognition of PA 490, which is the farm land assessment today, has changed in the year 2012 with zoning. Prior to that zoning regulation change, your property and your rights to own that piece of property were given to you and to Pete Seal as known as a matter of right. Do you know at that time that the zoning regulations when the previous owners established that farm, that the rights were frozen through zoning? Do you know that?
No, sir.
You need to know your rights tonight. You need to know that if you want to become legal conforming tonight, that you are going to give away every one of your rights as a farmer, like with this application being here. As a farmer in the town of Clinton, we date our farms exactly in the same times. The recognition today as PA 490 should be recognized by our zoning department with the recognition of the farm application that goes back to whenever you were recognized by the town in your PA 490. That there is a law, 8-26, that it is illegal once you have been recognized by the town to have legal non-conforming status, any zoning regulation change, including ones that come after 2012, are not allowed legally to be enforced on your piece of property. Do you know that? You need to consult an attorney, and to know your rights, you need to know that a certificate of zoning compliance is one of the greatest things that you need to have, and I wished many years ago I did. You need to hire an attorney to protect your rights tonight. I am here standing for farming and farming in our community because you have a diamond that today, if you become legal conforming, you will give away all of your rights and be held to every zoning regulation in the town of Clinton on that piece of property. According to the Zoning Commission's report in 1988, when they reviewed my property, home occupation and accessory use is not allowed to be enforced on my piece of property. That dates back in 1988. I did not know my rights. I did not know what my farm was capable of doing. We have the same business. You have the same, it was spoken tonight, a retail area on your property. You have an agricultural piece of property that is commanded by the Department of Agriculture to give you the right to farm. You have one of the most wonderful pieces of property. I was on your property this weekend. You sell mulch like I do. You sell all kinds of agricultural products. You bring a lot of products on your property the same way that I do. We have, and I'm standing here in public tonight, no different than anybody else, one of the rarest pieces of property that was given to you when the town said you became a farmer. Those rights go back to Hartford with state statutes, and you have, as a matter of right, that right to farm. Don't give it away. Please pull this application. Do not go forward at this point. If you would like to speak to me and you want to talk to Mr. Lambert, he said many times tonight, you have a gem. Don't throw it away. Unfortunately, I could present to the commission tonight that the recognition in zoning prior to an issue that I had that was downloaded in the zoning department that I own a farmland piece of property. And it's too bad in public tonight. I've spent over thousands and thousands of dollars chasing my farm rights. It's too bad. Today, by recognition of PA 490 in the assessor's office and the dated application, you are a farmer here in this town. God bless you. Pull your application.
Anyone else to speak against this application?
My name is Yasuo Nozaro. My wife Julie Nozaro previously stated, described what it was negative and sad experience living next to the industrial property. I like to just present a fact. Emanating from previous experience of changing to industrial zone. Our backyard about to that property, and I noticed about 20% reduction in the assessment in the grand list. So that's the impact we all may be experiencing if this goes through. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Mark Baker, 5 Bonnie Lane, no relation to the applicant. Yes, it is. I don't actually abut property on Bonnie Lane. I'm actually across the road, but I have been negatively impacted by the activity on I-2, the parcel on I-2, as you see on the map. For all the reasons, I think I'm the last speaker, so I concur with everybody who has previously spoken on the subject. One thing I did want to make a note of is in the town's conservation and development plan that's been referred to by Mr. Lambert and a few others. It does talk about making use of existing industrial space, reusing that space within Clinton and not expanding industrial space within the town. So I'd like to have the committee please think about that recommendation in its existing plan. Thank you.
Sal Pasquariello, 9 Bonnie Lane. I oppose this application because we moved in to 9 Bonnie Lane in July of 2002, and all the trees were flowering and all the leaves were up. And then the following winter, as soon as the trees deflowered, we saw the industrial park that Mr. Binder has, the rock crushing operations. And we were totally disgusted with our recognition of that position and allowing it, the possibility for it to expand is totally beyond expectations.
I lost my voice and I haven't spoken in a while.
Anybody else want to speak?
If not, I would entertain comments, just general comments. I don't want to discourage it, but, you know, it's getting long here. I think we got the gist. General comments.
Open property 3 years ago, and I just had a child last summer, and this is now in the picture recently. It's a residential area. It's no need for industrial area. It just doesn't belong.
Thank you. I guess that was a negative comment. I still haven't got to the general comments. Are there any? If not, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Grabarek to rebut, and then finally to the commission to do whatever it wants.
Do you want to wrap it up tonight, or do you want to take a little time? Excuse me? You want to wrap it up tonight, or you want to take a little time? Okay. Okay, for the record, my name is Robert Grabarek, and we had the zone change application here. We've heard from many of the area residents that they oppose this change because of the what-ifs. What if it has rock crushers on the site? What if they expand and do lots of other things on the site? How is it going to impact their quality of life? The property has been used for greenhouses for the past 30 years. The current owners have been owners of the property for the past 11 years. The owners do not, as was implied, wish to sell the property and move to Massachusetts. The owners wish to stay there, they wish to continue their business. I don't believe that the operation of the business here is objectionable. It's been going on for 30 years. I was told by the applicants the last time I visited it that there are actually people that come and visit the greenhouses, just walk around in them. You know, reminds them that it's springtime, there are growing things in there, it's their business, it's what they like to do, it's what they wish to continue. The reason for the zone change is to allow for a standard permit application, which will come up next if this is approved, for the change of the building right there, which is sort of a open plastic structure, into a enclosed building so they can service their clients better and again remain on the property. They don't plan on selling their property to somebody who be using a rock crusher. They plan on continuing the operation with the greenhouses that have been there for many years. And they believe they've been good neighbors and they wish to continue as good neighbors on this property to sell plants on a commercial basis to the area residents. As an aside, it probably makes no difference, but in the next week or two I'll be going up there myself and buying plants. It's a pleasure to have an operation like this in our town. And you know, we hear what ifs, what if this, what if that, what if everything else. I'm here to state to you that my clients wish to remain on the property. They wish to continue the use of the property for greenhouses, and by enacting the zone change, it will allow them to come in with a standard, straightforward site plan application to change out that small temporary, well, plastic covered structure into a more permanent structure so they can have a more comfortable operation on their site. That's it. That's the intent of this application. That's all they're trying to do. And we hope that the commission feels fit to approve our application for a zone change and let this go forward.
Commissioners, can I make one comment? Very quick. About what? You've already what you just said. Well, it's now up to the commission to ask the question, and I believe you'll probably get your comment aired out by members of the commission. Okay, thank you. Mr. Rivera. Yes. You're on to us, and I will ask you a question.
Yes.
Are you telling me that the applicant is here because of the applicant is here with this proposal because it wants to convert a temporary type building into something more permanent?
Yes, we had a discussion with Mr. Knapp, and he indicated that we're in 3 zones. It was the expressed intent that we essentially clean up the zoning on this property, and we had the lot split possibilities. We would basically just pull off the part there as a residential structure, and the commercial operation with the greenhouses expand the I-2 up in that area so we could go with the straightforward site plan application for the building.
That's for a site plan application. You could ask for a special exception, could you not?
We could ask for a special exception, however, my understanding it would be easier and cleaner just to...
Easier? I've just spent 2 hours listening to people. That's easier?
Yes.
I'm in
Okay, it would just be a zoning permit then, I'm sorry.
I'm in shock.
Not even a site plan.
Not even a site plan.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners?
This was the direction I was given.
Eric, you want to elaborate?
No, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. Any questions from the commissioners?
I guess the thing is, I'm looking at the permitted uses, and I don't see what, I mean, for nurseries, fruit stands, vegetable stands, whether they're in an I zone or in a residential zone.
Residential zone is special exception.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a special exception, but I mean, it just strikes, I mean, it doesn't strike me that this is as straightforward as it's being suggested. There has to be another reason.
I'm not going to speculate to the reasons. We have an application before us. I just want to make it clear because I'm starting to get annoyed.
Yeah.
It's an application before us to change the zone to industrial. That I do. That will allow certain other users to come in as of right. I'm concerned about that. I want to know why. If the intent that has been stated for the record is in fact all that wants to be accomplished here, there are other routes to do it without changing an entire parcel to an I-2. Right?
I understand that, it was the direction it was not just to change it to I-2, but we have 3 zones for this one single piece of
Well,
property.
we can certainly put the house in residential if that's a concern, but I don't see how it affects you, frankly. But you are affecting a multitude of other properties, are you not? Just because you want to convert a building into a more permanent structure?
We'd like to, again, we're trying to clean up the zoning. We've got three zones.
You tell me how this is not spot zoning.
They're both contiguous. You have an I-2 that's contiguous
But
with an
who's being
existing.
affected directly? Just your parcel, your property owner, your client, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I'm done with my questions. How about anybody else?
I just wanted to make sure, this is just to build that building.
And to clean up the zoning.
You don't have,
But we decide whether we want to clean up the
yeah, we
zoning.
want to, that's up to us.
Yeah.
So the only thing you want to do is put an enclosure there, correct?
Yes. I was given direction.
I don't understand that question. You're going to affect every single person in this room, every. Open it up. On the floor.
Ed, I'm done.
Just come up.
Could I have a motion?
I move that we close the
Motion.
hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there general comments? Are there general comments still available tonight or no?
No, we're done.
We're
Okay.
done.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of closing this application, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Abstaining? Okay, moving on. Item number 7 is the applicant has requested that the public hearing not be open so he can address certain comments in staff review. And you may rejoin. So moving on to number 9, AR 15020, proposed amendment to the zoning regulations. Guess I'll give a few minutes for people to vacate.
Does anybody want to go to the bathroom or anything?
I'd like to continue this public hearing on other matters that are of importance. Item 9, AR 15020, proposed amendment to the zoning regulations, section 10.3, multiple dwelling units and commercial structures. The regulations committee has spent a great deal of time on this. We've had revisions, we've had opportunity to comment. I've seen them personally. I attended the last meeting. What's that? We have correspondence. Don't we always have correspondence?
That's a letter from DEP. Dear Dear Commissioners, thank you for referring the zoning text amendment for us to review. The first text amendment proposed to combine multiple dwelling units. It combines both multiple dwelling units and village residential in one letter.
Great. Energy and environmental protection. The first text amendment proposes to combine multiple dwelling units with commercial structures. While this concept is consistent with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, the Commission should consider whether multiple dwelling units are actually feasible for a community septic system with certain soil types. We do not recommend that multiple dwelling units be located in the DEP-defined needs area, as soil types are not suitable to intensive development. Likewise, in the proposed village residential development zone, we are supportive of an open space subdivision concept which preserves open space and views, but caution the Commission to be aware that not all soil types are suitable for community septic systems, and therefore, locations chosen for the VRD zone should have suitable soil types. We do not recommend the VRD zone for the DEP-defined needs area, as this is not suitable for intensive development. In conclusion, we hope these comments are helpful to the Commission pursuant to CGS Section 22A-110. We request these comments be read into the record at the public hearing for this application. We can be of further assistance to you in any way. Coastal Management. While on this unrelated matter, please feel free to contact me. Sincerely, Carol Kaminsky.
It should be in the Mr. Mine for it.
Okay, who wants to make any kind of presentation? We have the co-chairs of the Regulatory Relations Committee. Several of us attended the last meeting. We had great discussion. I think all the points that were of concern have been addressed. This is ready for comments from the public, and we're ready to go. Is anybody here to speak in favor of this proposed amendment to the zoning regulations? And then I need a microphone, right? Nope. Have to read the changes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's probably better that we sort of specify on the record what changes were made since the last public hearing, so that there's a sense that we have, that the public understands what we're doing here.
All right, would you like to do that, Eric?
Which one was used since the last time? Following changes have been incorporated since the last public hearing. In section 10.3.1, we have added in the second paragraph, 1, 2, 3, fourth line down, the words commercial and recreational before the word services, and after that, provided within the village setting without the need to travel by vehicle. Going down to 10.3.2, section B, or subsection B, we have added in the second line there, consistent with allowing access to the residential uses on other floors. Residential uses may be accessed from both the front and rear of the structure and may be provided a separate entrance. In section C, we have deleted some language, we've also included if a ventilation system is required to be installed for a retail or restaurant use, it shall be designed so that it does not affect any residential uses above that space or elsewhere in the building. We have now made clear in section 10.3.3A that we are talking about gross floor area of no less than 650 square feet rather. The average number of bedrooms located within the multiple dwelling units development shall not exceed 1.75 per unit. That's in the new section B. Dropping down to E, we have now deleted the requirement that there's convenient parking within 1,000 square feet. We've added the word convenient in lieu of the 1,000 square foot linear distance requirement. Lighting, we've now added street lighting in the last line there, except for that will read security, street lighting, and safety lighting. The open space requirement in H, says a minimum of 100 square feet per dwelling unit shall be dedicated as usable open space. This open space shall be located within the area designated for the multiple dwelling units within commercial structures. And I think that is it. Okay.
Okay, with those relatively minor changes that of greater specificity, I would entertain any comments from the audience in favor of this application. We have John back there. All right, anyone against this proposed zoning change or zoning amendments? I'm not going to do it 3 times because I'm tired. We're good. Commissioners, anything more? I think a good bunch of us were there at the last regulations meeting. Nothing's really changed since then,
Well,
except
the one
for...
that is different is this limiting of the bedrooms, limiting the average bedrooms to 1.75.
Yes.
In other words, that it would not be a complete development of 2-bedroom and larger units.
What it would do is would reduce the number of 3-bedroom units, if any are contemplated.
Right, but you could not have a development of 100% 2-bedroom units.
No, you could not.
You'd have to have some ones in there in order to achieve the 1.75.
And you could have 3s.
You could still have 3s.
You have some, but you could not have 100% 2s.
That is correct.
Did it come from some other, do we have this anywhere else within our regs, or was it?
No, we had it in the original guidelines for the IDC.
It's confusing me, I gotta be honest. The 1.75. I'm just being honest. The 1.75.
It's an average. I think the developer understands the import of that. The developer is here today, and he shook his head positive.
Okay. Confused me.
Are we ready to close the public hearing on this?
I have a really good question for this. I don't know, for us, something I raised at the meeting, but we got sidetracked on open space, and we never really dealt with it, is the amenity and bonus provisions. I still have questions about that. Some of the things we listed as amenities, I think as amenity bonuses should be provided as a matter of, should be required. I still feel that way.
That's not going to prevent us closing this public hearing, is it?
No, I want to get it on the record.
Okay, I understand that.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a proposal,
Motion.
motion to close, I'd like to move to close the public hearing.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Alan, we heard the comment, and I take it.
Duly noted.
It's a concern of yours, and I understand it, but motion pending, any discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Abstain. Okay, we close the public hearing. We more than likely will have a decision next week. Item number 10. AR 15-021, proposed amendment to zoning regulations, section 10.5, village residential development. And do we have correspondence?
April 30th, 2015. Dear Commissioners, thank you for referring this text amendment to us for review. The first text amendment proposes to combine multiple dwelling units with commercial structures. While this concept is consistent with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act, the Commission should consider whether multiple dwelling units are actually feasible for a community septic system on certain soil types. We do not recommend that multiple dwelling units be located in a DEP-defined needs area, as soil types are not suitable to intensive development. Likewise, in the proposed village residential development zone, We are supportive of an open space subdivision concept which preserves open space and views, but caution the commission to be aware that not all soil types are suitable for community septic systems, and therefore locations chosen for the VRD zone should have suitable soil types. We do not recommend the VRD zone for the DEP defined needs areas, as this area is not suitable for intensive development. In conclusion, we hope that this comments are helpful to the commission pursuant to CGS section 22A-110. We request these comments be read into the record of the public hearing for this application. We need further assistance to you in this or any other coastal management or Long Island Center related matter. Please put your comment. Carol, please.
Okay, do we want to recap any changes that might have occurred since the last time we noticed the public hearing?
I'm going to sort of speak on the changes. Generally, they were tracked throughout the document, and I'm not going to necessarily comment each and every time they occur. We have changed the name of this particular area from the Village Residential to the Common Interest Community Development District. That change tracks throughout the proposed regulation. We have also largely changed the term dwellings to units throughout the property. We have changed the term lot to properties throughout the regulations. Okay, I'm sorry. That is just me. 10.5.1 changes properties to lot. I will track that through. We added the words protect open space and common areas in 10.5.1. We want 10.3A1, is that new? The area to develop? Okay. In 10.5.3A, parens 1, it now reads, any area to be developed within a CICD shall have a minimum area of 40,000 square feet. It then goes on to say in subparagraph I2 that a limited common element, exclusive use area, or other reduction or other restriction of use of or portion of land created for the declaration of common interest community, and not as otherwise a division of land for the process or otherwise shall not be considered a lot. The section is swiftly flipped the negatives there. In subparagraph 2, it says each area to be developed. We took out the word lot. Then it goes on to 110 square within and upon which multiple units may be constructed to clarify that the lot is supposed to be a large area, not a small area for each one individual unit. Okay. In 5, it talks about lots must remain under a unified ownership as part of a master common interest community, but may contain units that are separately and individually owned. In 7, talks about perimeter setback located for underlying zone district shall apply to each developed area located within a tract. I think. Again, switching out dwelling for unit. In subsection I, on page 1011, little line there, that asphalt is not exceptional material for sidewalk, but asphalt may be used for pedestrian and bike paths. And I think that may be one. The proposed, in 10.5.4, we've now added a K that says proposed development must demonstrate its proximity to state highways and or locations of mass transit access and be serviced by public water supply. 10.5.5, parens A, last sentence before you go down to the sub numbers, a tract need not be subdivided into separate lots. That was the only changes that, those are the summary of the changes that have been made.
I have a question. I'm sorry I was breezing through this. On section 3, the existing mature vegetation, shade trees, etc., why was that struck?
I'm sorry.
Oh, let me see, what is that?
Can you read it to me?
It's on page,
It's on page 10,010.
Yeah.
Subsection 3.
Yeah, 10,000, yeah.
because it was determined that instead of dictating what kind of vegetation the developer should use, the developer should propose to the commission what would be appropriate, and the commission can determine if it is in keeping with the.
That's how we said.
The other point was that the existing vegetation may be invasive species or maybe other things that are in there that are undesirable, and it is possible that the developer could come in with native plantings or other things that would be a more desirable proposed landscape than what's there presently. So at least offer the developer the opportunity to give us a proposal that may be more desirable than what's there presently, and the commission will have to evaluate that on a case-by-case basis.
But is that, oh, sorry, maybe I'm just not seeing it. Is that what you're saying? Where is that addressed in that fashion?
It's not going to come about different specific languages.
They have to come in with a plantings
They
plan.
have to come in with a landscaping plan.
That's the point of the landscaping plan.
Okay, where is that? I'm sorry.
On page
At the end.
10013, under procedures.
I think the point was to not design the landscape for him,
Okay.
for him to
Okay.
design it.
I just want to make sure that there's some protections as to, you know.
If you look under 10.5.5 friends B on the last page,
Landscaping plan,
landscaping plan
number
must be
2.
submitted.
I see.
And then
Okay,
there's certain
that's
requirements
why
about
I'm
what a
missing.
landscaping plan has to have.
Yes, okay.
In
Thank
our-
you. I can answer it for me.
Okay, we good?
Good.
Any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I did you open it up?
I did, I opened it up and I asked, does anybody have any comments? I'm cutting it short because it's
I didn't know
another.
if that was general comment.
Public comments, exactly.
Didn't know if that's
Public comments. One head, two heads. No public comments. John,
John, are you in favor of this one too?
I move to close the public
Is there a second?
Second.
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 Do you have a question?
I just want to reiterate, we had mentioned at the regulations meeting, I brought it up, about the deep sites, and that there's a new report out, but it's not being released, it's not being made public yet, but Carol Zemanski once again has pointed out that she doesn't feel that within the VRD zone, or the new
It's not a
CICD
special exception.
zone for the deep defined needs area, as this area is not suitable for intensive development. I'm just pointing this out.
Yep. It's there. She said that.
She said it.
Well, there's a motion on the table.
Is there? I don't know if I got a second.
Kirk.
Yeah, I second it.
Motion by Kirk, who's the second?
I was.
Okay, Ayers. Any discussion that we close the public hearing pursuant to a motion with a second? No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Mr. Chairman, is there any urgency on these next two?
It's all part of all of this. Yes, that's
And the question is 11 and 12.
The schedule of uses goes with the other two.
Yeah, it's all together.
So there is an urgency.
What, number 12?
Both of them?
Yes, yes. They need to all go together, hold them back together.
Okay, any changes to those since the last time we discussed? Any significant changes?
You limited these down, limited the mixed use one to just the item Z, based on the recommendation.
and R10, is it not?
For multiple dwelling, it's just item Z.
Village residential is the,
Everything else is prohibited. Okay. For, not R10, yeah, we took that out specifically. We're talking about in the table here,
It was multiple dwelling units was Yeah, we pulled all of that out of,
We pull all of that out of any zone except IDC.
because that's in the commercial dwellings, and we just left that in the IDZ until it was reviewed further.
So it's only applicable to IDs.
Correct. And the common entrance, the CICD is only the IDZ and the R10 zones. Those are the changes that were made since this was published.
Okay, we're talking about item 11, definition.
Oh, sorry, definitions, yep. And that has not
That
changed.
has not changed, no, I thought we were through the
So
one.
we're on item 11, definitions, that has not changed. It's come out of regulations, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments from the public on that? No. There are 4 members of the public, and they're all saying no. No for, no against, no comments. So commissioners, any comments?
We just need to update the definitions for consistency with the other changes we're making, that's all.
That's what I understand them to be.
Yes.
Okay.
You're trying to
I have a
everything
question, actually, about 320.3. A tract, a parcel of land which has not been divided or subdivided since October 5th, 1964. Submitted to, I don't know what this means, submitted to the commission to be subdivided.
It can have been divided in what,
I know what that means.
okay. The point is that there are divisions that are not subdivisions, in essence, one of the statutes there. So submitted to the commission, I think is probably redundant. But I guess the point is that if there were divisions that were made that were for agricultural purposes or otherwise, even if they were devoid of create parcels, if they were not subdivisions, they, in theory, would not come to the commission. I don't know that you need submitted to the commission in there. I think that, again, is redundant, but I gather the purpose of putting it in there was to clarify that there were divisions made that did not come to the commission during that.
So that the impact of this would be any property that's been divided in any way, right? Somebody basically subdivided a property and split it into a house and a big lot. This would not apply because it has been divided.
No, tracts only apply to, where's my definition here, sorry.
Tract is something that has only had a free split and not been subdivided. A free split or less.
A tract is something that's had a free split, but
Or
has not
less.
been
Or less.
subdivided.
Correct.
So it could have had a
It could have had a free split. The intention was that it could have had a free split or otherwise an agricultural split or any other kind of non-subdivision event.
Okay, but we're still, but that's prior to October of '64.
Even since then, because before,
Well, that's the question.
If it happened before
there
64,
was
it
no
doesn't
subdivision
count.
regulation.
It doesn't count.
Because you couldn't neglect the subdivision prior to that date, right?
Okay. You could have a division before that date.
You could, before that date, you could do whatever you wanted with your property, and there was no regulation of how you divided it.
There was no subdivision, there was no zoning, there was nothing.
So whatever you did to your property before that time period was not regulated by the town. So as far as subdivision regulations are concerned, however the property existed on that date, it had always existed that way for purposes of regulation.
And the last clause,
No, he's right.
I want to get it right.
I know, you're right.
The last clause, I think, is redundant. I don't think we need
I'm
the
agreeing with you.
commission to be subdivided.
Thank you.
Department of Redundancy Department.
I think that's
It's just confusing.
That was
It's been here a long time, I think getting it right is.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really am.
Alan, I agree that the last clause is redundant.
So what can we do about it?
Get rid of it. Strike it out. It's
Well,
redundant.
I'm just suggesting that it's
When you
redundant.
go
It
to-
is.
When you go to adopt the
That-
order,
Strike
the line.
just amend it.
Amended.
We'll call it the Kravitz rule.
Okay, with those.
Mr. Chairman, I move to close hearing for AR 15-022.
There you go. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Item number 12, AR 15023, proposed amendment to zoning regulations, section 24, schedule of uses by district. Is there any correspondence? Read it into the record.
From Connecticut Deep, dated April 30th, 2015. Thank you for referring these zoning text amendments to us for review. The submission includes some text changes which we received in another application, specifically the village residential development in multiple dwelling units and commercial structures. We found the zoning text amendments to be consistent with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act. In conclusion, we hope these comments are helpful to the Commission pursuant to CGS Section 2280-10. We request these comments be read into the record at a public hearing for this application. If we can be of further assistance to you in this or any other coastal management or long-term consent related matter, please feel free to call me, Carol Ziminski.
This one is the way it's been for a while, right? There are no changes? Or are there
Change
changes?
the language.
The village residential development seems to be.
Community.
That got changed.
Well, I also have a question about the 2.3, multiple dwelling units. The section that we wrote is multiple dwelling units in commercial structures.
Correct.
That should reflect that, I think.
So that will be added. The CICD is only in the IDZ and the R10, and the multiple dwelling units is only in the IDZ.
They still want to be,
Yes.
are they called the same thing?
It will be updated.
Okay. So with those comments, once we have some
Figure out
comments
the
from
public. Is there any comment from the public? We have to abide by law. No comments from the public. Now you can make your motion.
I move that we close the public hearing on AR 15-023.
Is there a second?
Second. Oh, Gary seconded.
Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. Abstaining? Okay, one more motion.
Motion to adjourn?
I want to say you guys did a great job.
Second?
Great job. Second. You guys did a great job. Sir, sure to God.
Adjourn, it's 11:04. Thank you.